Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes,
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 I
yes.
can hear you. Sir, can we start?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I welcome you all in the session 10, which is Bio and Medical Textile. I would like to welcome our session chair, Dr. Professor Mukesh Kumar Singh. He is a faculty in the Department of Textile Technology at TAI Kanpur. I welcome you, sir. Now I am handing over the session to you. Please begin the session. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Rohini. I would like to welcome all speakers of this session. First of all, I would like to express my thanks to Honorable Professor Bhuvnesh Gupta sir to give me this opportunity to chair this session, which is dedicated to bio and medical textiles. So the keynote speaker for this session 10 is Gauri Shankar Nagarajan. He is representing the DuPont India. Dr. Gauri Nagarajan is the Business Development Manager of DuPont Industrial Biosciences at DuPont based in India. His specialty in agriculture and nutrition, advanced materials, advanced biosciences, science and engineering, applications development, specialization materials, and ingredients. Apart from these, he is working for electronics and imaging, nutrition, biosciences, safety and construction, transportation, and industrial markets, along with water solutions and specialized materials. So everybody know the name of DuPont because a lot of credits goes to DuPont. Invention of polyester, nylon, so many other new molecules. So DuPont is very big name in the field of material science. So with all due regards, I would like to invite Gauri Shankar Nagarajan ji to present his talk here.
Thank you, Professor Mukesh ji. Thank you so much for your warm welcome. Appreciate your kind words. Actually, आपने बहुत सारा चीज बोला. I am only know a little in many things, not a lot in a lot of things. So I know little, but whatever I know little, I'll share. I think Professor Dr. Gupta ji made a nice comment that चार लोग होना चाहिए, to make things happen. I don't think we can all do things alone. So I think this is a very nice example. This conference is a nice example of how we have put together this very wonderful e-conference. Similarly, this molecule that I'm going to be talking about, the effort brought a lot of technologies together to make it happen. And I think I hope at least that the audience are able to take few nuggets from this presentation. Let me just share this. Okay, so is there a way I can are everyone able to see the slides?
Slides are there. If it is possible, please come on presentation mode.
Presentation mode. Very good. I will try that.
Otherwise, it's okay. You can go with this also. No issue.
No, sir. Just 1 second. Let me try. In trouble.
No, sir. Don't worry. Please go with this because I think this is in PDF format.
If you can, maybe someone can help me how to.
You just need to click the right side arrow, a small arrow in between where the blue screen is ending. You will see a right arrow in the center. So just you need to click that arrow. Your screen will be full.
Oh, really? Okay, right. I don't.
Small arrow.
I don't, sir. Unfortunately, I don't see any arrow. My Zoom thing has become minimal. I don't know how to show.
And below cover slide, there is an arrow. Can you click it?
Oh no, sir. This is because I am using power. Oh, wait a minute. Below cover slide. Okay. Maybe let me try this.
Or
Window, because this is a PDF file.
can you try in view? Please click on view.
View, yeah. Oh, view.
Fill.
No, this is because this is PDF file, and
Sir, you can go with this, no issue.
is that right? Sorry about that.
You continue.
Okay, sir. Okay, just 1 second. Okay. Oh. Okay, I'm really apologize for this confusion. I hope you are all able to see the slide. So, okay, now you are able to see the slides, right? At least part of it.
Yes.
Okay.
Please go.
Maybe I'll increase the size here to 100%. Oh, no, it doesn't work.
No, keep it 85. 85 was okay.
Okay, perfect. Okay.
Please go.
So, good morning, everyone. And I think thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. Special thanks to Yogesh ji, who I had met in the show in Yannick's show in Delhi, and we got started to talking about this. And what I will do is I will cover few slides. Ms. Rohini has the access to the slides. Apart from the team here, the people who are attending this, Ms. Rohini, if anyone needs copy of these slides, please feel free to share the slides to whoever is in need of this. And you can also send my email address, and I can clarify anything further. And if I am not able to clarify, my team members will be most certainly willing to, address any questions or clarifications that are needed. I think Professor Mukesh ji nicely introduced DuPont. I also want to let you know that DuPont has created this separate company called Covation Biomaterials. You will find our story about Covation Biomaterials, Covation Bio in our website. I won't get into the details, but since June 1, we have become, the biomaterials group has become a separate entity. And this is because, due to a lot of economic changes, global changes, DuPont keeps reinventing themselves, and they try to get into new fields. In fact, they separated the famous Lycra company separately, back in 2006. And the polyester division, of course, a lot of you know, was given to Reliance Industries, the whole technology back in the 80s itself. So similarly, they have moved out of textiles now, and they have created this new company called Covation Biomaterials. So I'm part of that. I've been with DuPont. I was with DuPont until May 31st for well over 20 years. So my talk here is related to, how DuPont looked at a circular approach, which means using materials as a way to introduce circularity, which is, using materials that are renewable, and how they did not compromise on performance at the same time. So let's get into that. And a brief introduction, our company Covation has been born out of, 200. DuPont was founded in the year 1802. And I'm not going into a lot of history here. The slides are available. You can get into the details. I just want to point to a few nuggets that are shown here. It's very interesting that only when we keep changing, we can get ourselves into new challenges, and that is a way for us to learn as well. Similarly, DuPont kept, looking at new materials. They are into so many things, globally, in terms of products and materials. But you can see this, how the material was born. They wanted to get into polymers, and you can see in 1930, they started working on the polyester polymer. And even though they took some time, working on the material, they were actually more impressed with nylon because they thought nylon would be enough and sufficient because it was extremely superior, in many aspects. One of the things I wanted to ask and start with the question is, please think of one word. Please think of one word that comes to your mind when three important inventions that were made by DuPont, right? There were three major materials, which were polyester, nylon, and spandex. These are one of the most important materials in textiles today. And please think of one word that would come to your mind when I say the word lycra or spandex. The first word that most likely everyone would likely get, if I would have encouraged, if it were a face-to-face meeting, people to express their questions by asking them. But I don't know if there is a chat facility available, but in any case, the first word that comes to our mind when we talk about spandex is stretch. When we talk about nylon, the same way we get is softness or color. There is always a debate. Nylon has excellent color pickup, color vibrancy. And there is also a group of people who say the first word that comes to their mind is softness. Similarly, polyester, the first word that people would come to is a rigid or a very tough, and compared to all this, nylon is of course very tough as well. But the word that comes to people's mind, polyester, is it's sort of, it has its strength, and it gives what we call as the drape. So if you think of polyester to drape, nylon to softness, and spandex to stretch, that was the sort of the sweet spot that DuPont was working on. Okay, so given this history, you can see that in the next slide, DuPont had a long history of inventing new materials. Apart from just the three that I mentioned, the bulletproof fiber, which is Kevlar, the firefighting fiber, which is the Nomex, that's written here, that's the aramid, and the Kevlar aramid. And of course, there are many other polymers that DuPont invented. And of course, after a long break, the new material that got invented after about 20 plus years of research was Sorona. So this Covation Biomaterials has inherited this rich heritage of DuPont to develop new materials. If I move to the next slide, again, I won't give a lot of details here. Once again, this slide is available, but it is beautiful to see from the time when 1951, when the first plant was developed, 1951 in North Carolina, in the East Coast, the polyester plant came into existence in 1953. They have even mentioned the date, March 23, 1953. And, it took 20 years for the first POY line to come, the pre-oriented, partially oriented yarn. And very interestingly, if you just come down to the bottom of it, at the same plant in 2007, the first biopolymer was introduced, and I will get into the details, and that will be the subject of the talk today. And of course, we have had tremendous growth with it. And I want to mention one very interesting fact. I don't know how many of you have visited Reliance Industries facility. The first facility was started in Patalganga in Raigad district. You got to travel in the old Pune expressway for that to, for you to be visiting that place. It's a very nice plant. And interestingly, they have named the guest house, as the Kingston House. Kingston was where they got all the equipment from. Reliance got all the equipment from, and they put that, the entire setup, the polyester setup at their Patalganga facility in Raigad district. So very, very nice, interesting fact that, we got a piece of that history. It's still, of course, the equipment, I'm sure, is all changed, etc. But some history is still relevant if one were to visit the Patalganga site of Reliance. That's where the polyester journey for India started, for Reliance India started at that time in the 80s. So moving on, so the topic of today will be Sorona, and I will, get quickly into some of the scientific aspects of what this polymer is about. Before I go into, the Sorona aspect of it, just a small, we all know polyester is PET, PET is polyethylene terephthalate, and to this audience here, you will very well know that the monoethylene glycol is the acid, and terephthalic acid is monoethylene glycol is the glycol. Pardon me, I'm still getting up. And the terephthalic acid, TPA or PTA as it's called, is the acid, and as you know, the alcohol plus acid would give you an ester and water molecule. So the interesting thing here is PET is polyethylene terephthalate, and the ethylene comes from the ethylene glycol. So DuPont knew that, and at that time, DuPont had already made PET and PBT. PBT is polybutylene terephthalate. But the problem was to make this very interesting molecule that would give this polypropylene terephthalate, which is the 3-carbon glycol. Monoethylene glycol is 2-ethylene glycol. Polybutylene, as the name suggests, is a 4-ethylene glycol. And the one in the middle is the 3-ethylene glycol. And it's not a very easy process to produce it. Chemistry-wise, it's very simple. Glycerin, as everyone knows, is a 3-carbon triol, which is having a OH group in first, second, and third carbon. If you remove the water molecule from the second carbon, you remove that water molecule, you get the 1,3-propane. That is what is needed to produce the polypropylene terephthalate or polytrimethylene terephthalate. PPT would not have been a very popular name in the industry because PPT was already popularized by Microsoft. So polytrimethylene terephthalate is the chemical name, which starts with this monomer, right? Any polymer has this monomer. In this case, this is the beauty about it. This is where the circularity comes, where instead of producing it from petromeans, it is in fact very difficult to produce it that way. DuPont realized it very early that they had to break the glucose molecule, which is C6 molecule, and break it into 2 constituents, C3, because this is a C3 molecule. So the process now is a marvel in itself. The facility is located in the United States, the first ever commercial production of monomer that goes into textile. So this product is produced with, taking sugar and microorganisms act on it. As you know, fermentation of just the regular sugar will give you a C2 molecule, right? In fact, we can produce it at home. You just leave a fruit. This is you will get a C2 molecule, which is C2H5OH, ethanol. But here we have produced C3 molecule, which is the 1,3-propanediol. And this purity is important. When you're trying to make a polymer, purity of that molecule is very important. That's what DuPont was able to do. Okay, so this in a nutshell, we take industrial corn because there is always worry that people think we are taking food. There is absolutely no debate about food versus fuel or food versus feed. This is industrial dent corn. 99% of the corn, industrial corn that gets produced goes into industrial applications. Starch is a big use, finds big use in the chemical industry. The 1% of the corn that is produced is what is sweet corn. That is what people use. And this is a joint venture between 2 companies because we need some company that is premium here to break down that corn and give us the dextrose. In fact, what happens, there is a pipe. Unfortunately, I don't have a picture here, but there is a pipe of dextrose that comes from that facility into the DuPont facility or the current Covation BioPDO facility where fermentation happens, and using a biocatalyst, we are able to develop what is called as the BioPDO, which is the propanediol that is converted through biomeans. And that BioPDO goes into many, many applications. The propanediol as it is can be used for many applications. It can also be converted into a polymer. So in a nutshell, you have an option where you have a petro base that you can take. That's very familiar with all of the audience here. And of course, through Sorona, what we have done is essentially take through this, and this is the 3-carbon molecule that they are showing here, which is then added to TPA, and then you get this polymer, and that is the chips. It is then used to make various products. And why did, this is very important, right? Why did DuPont get into this 20-year effort to make this? And I want to go back to the comment I made earlier, which is think nylon is softness, stretch is spandex, and polyester is braid. What if you try to mix these three characteristics into a same molecule? That was the goal with which DuPont wanted to go with this polymer. And now, when you look at the molecular structure of Sorona, that is the PTT, polytrimethylene terephthalate. As I said, trimethylene is same as propylene. You could have used PPT also, but PPT would have got confused with the PPT that I am presenting now. So PTT, you can see this molecule here. It is a sawtooth molecule, and you know, I try to explain very simple terms. It's like the harmonium that we play at, you know, like the musical instrument. You see the backside of the harmonium as the WW structure. That is the structure. The molecular structure of this polymer was the reason why DuPont was mad about this polymer. It had an inherent stretch and recovery built into the molecular structure itself. Because the structure is crazy and W-shaped, etc., it can ply. Pliability means softness. Polyester is a linear molecule. That's why it's rigid. It's very tough. But as you know, polyester has to go through in Surat, about 3 hours north of Mumbai, right? People do all sorts of things in Surat to make soft polyester. They have to do many filaments. They have to take it through caustic, etc., to make polyester soft. Whereas Sorona, by the nature of the molecular structure itself, you have the softness. And of course, you know, any polyester, any of that material, when it comes to the original shape, has grain. So you see, it may not be the perfect when it comes to softness, but it may not be the best when it comes to spandex as far as stretch recovery is concerned, or whatever it is. But the fact is, you are able to combine all these three important properties and provide that into a single product. That is the beauty why, you know, DuPont persisted to create this molecule. And now we have tremendously found success in pretty much all applications that need all these three parameters to a certain extent. And I go into the details of here, the structure. It's a semi-crystalline polymer, and it can be made into both staple fiber as well as you know, filament yarns as well. And interestingly, what you will see, the glass transition temperature for Sorona here is about 25 degrees lower than that of polyester, which would immediately indicate to you that even if we were to you know, dye this material, it will start picking up color at a much earlier you know, temperature and give a better depth even at the same temperature versus polyester. So that was another reason why this material was chased. And you can see here, between the three polymers, the 2GT is the 2-glycol terephthalate, which is the polyester. The 3-glycol terephthalate is the subject of this presentation, which is Sorona, and the 4-glycol terephthalate is the polybutylene terephthalate, which is, you know, using the 4-carbon glycol. And you can see the unique structure is present in the 3-carbon, you know, and that relates to the molecular structure of the propane-diol itself, because it's an odd, right, 3 versus you know, even number carbons in both you know, ethylene glycol or butylene glycol. Anyway, so that's also an important aspect. So when you take this fiber, you can pretty much convert into any of the fiber. You know, you can convert it into stretch fiber, you can convert it into a filament fiber, both in stretch form as well as in filament form. Okay, that's what this slide is showing. And why, I'll just pick up one aspect. Usually, you know, DuPont is very, I would say, having the foresight about the importance to have the right product, you know, develop the right product for the market. Even as they developed lycra or spandex, they were very clear that stretch is a concept that is going to exist for a long time. I'm sure every one of us have felt the need for stretch in our, you know, the clothing that we wear. Granted that you can have a circular knit or a warp knit or a knitting structure that can also give this elasticity, but the more important thing is the recovery of the fabric as well. And of course, you know, stretch is important in woven fabrics as well, not just with. So the importance of elasticity and the growing demand for elasticity was one of the prime reasons that DuPont got into, developing Sorona. And the common issues that we find, and it's very important for this session here, is why do we need a biomaterial? Is because the current material that is being used, it doesn't degrade. It doesn't degrade into its constituents. It cannot be recycled. The spandex material, while it was definitely a phenomenal invention from DuPont, has its own problems. It cannot be recycled very easily. In fact, it cannot be recycled. Most of these garments go into, landfill and cause, to our greenhouse gas emissions as well. So, when you look at different aspects of stretch, spandex was created by creating a hard segment and a soft segment. It was artificially created to create this molecular structure where the soft segment would move, but the hard segment would keep in place. Because it was created with this type of, unfortunately, bonds become weak when exposed to, sunlight or washing or mechanical duress or anything, temperature, all are enemies. And that's why you will see spandex giving up after washes or repeated use. If someone were to have a stretched denim in your home and you're wearing one of those, you will see that after a wash, it will become tight again. Why? Because it has lost its capability and the wash has sort of brought the shrinkage back, and after maybe 20 washes, it would go away. This is the unfortunate situation with spandex, that the weak links break, and we need a better sustainable solution that can give the stretch and recovery for the lifetime of the fabric. And how do you do that? You do that by bringing the molecule itself to have that stretch recovery built into it. And in the bottom of the slide, I show any textile yarn can be made to give a little bit of that stretch, but that is a mechanical stretch. That's what we call mechanical in the nature. So the one in the middle, which is what the Sorona biconference stretch is molecular in nature, where the stretch is imbibed at the molecular level. So again, I don't want to get into the details of this, but the message from this is the first slide, the first bullet point says it all, that, the Sorona stretch, for example, the molecule itself is able to withstand various conditions like heat, water, bleach, chemicals, etc. And that doesn't degrade the stretch, as is in the case with spandex. And just a quick reference here, that it goes into a lot of applications. Pretty much whatever applications one can think of, the new material is finding application, and it's a very welcome sign that a biomaterial is having that. And another aspect, technical aspect, that I want to showcase here is the fact that you want consistent performance over time, not something that would lose out on performance, which is the case when you have a spandex like fiber. I want to just quickly, I know I am a little, behind. I know I am taking time away from the second speaker. Please pardon me. Just quickly, I want to show a couple of things, especially in the context of medical textiles. I want to show a very important case study that where Sorona got adopted last year in medical garment, which is called a scrub, and NHS is the National Health Service from the United Kingdom. And this is certain to get into many such workwear, and very important, right? When you are a doctor or an employee working in an environment which requires you to be flexible, you need to still focus on your work, basically a workwear, you need that flexibility to move and a fabric that can breathe as well. So one of the interesting things that happened was they wanted to, check an option between a stretch fabric and a regular fabric. And this is a lot of garments that are being done into this new uniform. At the end of the day, what happened? The Sorona-based fabric met the criteria because it was the system cost, right? One can buy a fabric maybe at a cheaper price today, but the durability of that fabric, how you are able to sustain that fabric over a long period of time also mattered. And that is what we call as the cost to own. When you buy a product, it is not just important that, what is the initial cost, but if you are able to utilize that garment or for a longer period of time, you are able to say that the overall cost is down because you're not going and buying a garment again and again. So the durability was an important factor. And when they looked at the technical aspect, right? The NHS tender, for example, said the clothes have to be subjected to a wash of 60 plus degree. In this case, they have done at 60 degrees. Sometimes the industrial wash requires even higher temperature. They needed a stretch of 25%. They wanted the recovery to come back. In such a situation, it was basically not at all practical to go with the spandex like stretch fabric. The old concept of spandex simply would not work. With such stringent requirement, Sorona was the only play in this program, and we won this order for 8 million. It was a really technical fabric on how a biomaterial went into an application into the textile field, which is for medical professionals for the scrub. And given the fact that Sorona is also a stain free, it has stain resistance because of the molecule itself, the ester molecule itself. Of course, the warp, I believe, was cotton. Still, it helped in improving the stain resistance. So I'm going to wrap this talk up with this slide. I have a few more slides. Maybe we can discuss as questions. Always, it is important to find the sweet spot of innovation. We need, see, at the end of the day, if we are given a biomaterial, and this is a very important one message with this slide that I want to give is, biomaterial or a concept is important. It is helping in circularity, etc. But at the end of the day, as a customer, as a consumer ourselves, if the fabric does not give the performance, we're not going to embrace that, right? Because we want a certain basic performance attribute while it is sustainable, right? And while the technology may be green, we have a basic performance requirement. So the most important thing is performance is key. If it can be made with sustainable material, it is definitely more than welcome. And of course, the economics has to make sense. At the end of the day, it is great. There will be people who will make all this, but at the end of the day, if it is not economical, the product would not have seen the light of the day. Today, if you are making 150, 200,000 metric tons, which is a small minuscule compared to the millions of tons of polyester, we started small because somewhere we found value in the segment that we are playing, right? So that is very important, that we have to all have these three aspects of product development, which is, performance.
Dr. Nagarajan, please be quick.
Okay. And when we
short.
see these three aspects, that is the importance of it. So I'm going to stop here, sir. I think that's the end of it. And I'll take any questions if there may be. I'm very sorry for having overshot the time.
No issue. So thank you, Dr. Gauri Shankar Nagarajan, for this nice presentation. He very well explained about the history of DuPont, the contribution of DuPont, as well as he compared the PTT with the spandex fiber. So both fibers are important for textile point of view. So we are very much thankful to Dr. Nagarajan to share his views on this platform. Now I would like to move to next presenter, and the next presenter is very much in center since last couple of days. She's doing wonderful job in different capacity. She's a postdoctorate fellow in the Department of Textile and Fiber Engineering, IIT Delhi, and everybody know her name. She's nobody. She's Dr. Chetna Verma. So with all due regards and due respect, I would like to invite Dr. Chetna Verma to start her talk here.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for these kind words. And so I'm going to start my talk.
Yeah, please.
So my slides are clearly visible now.
Yeah, please.
myself, Chetna Verma from IIT Delhi, presenting my talk on functional designing of biopolymer-based nanomaterials for biomedical applications. So we are working with the biopolymer-based hydrogels. Hydrogels are the materials which have the ability to retain water in their structure. These are three-dimensional cross-linked polymer chains which have the strong affinity to hold water uh, either from the water system or from the surrounding medium. And this is due to their hydrophilic nature. They can either be absorbent if they absorb 100 to 2%, 100 to 200% of water, or super absorbent if they absorb 1000 to 2000 or more than 2000% of water. Now, what is the story behind this hydrophilicity? These materials are network of polymer chains. These chains have functional groups like hydroxyl, carboxyl, amine, sulfonic, and these functional groups are water loving and form hydrogen bond with water and absorb water. The classical example of these materials are biopolymers. Biopolymers possess these functional groups and having the properties of hydrogens. Further advancement in hydrogel system is the nanohydrogels. These nanogels are cross-linked structures, smaller in size, having large surface area and higher efficiency for the absorption of water. These nanogels may be used for drug entrapment, nanoimmobilization, targeted drug delivery. These nanogels functions in such a way that when they come in contact with aqueous medium, their 3D matrix swells and the bioactive component present inside these nanogels releases to the surrounding medium. Coming toward the problem of the society, infections are the major cause of death worldwide. Reducing the mortality rate caused by bacterial infection is considered one of the most critical challenges. Therefore, novel antibacterial delivery system and surface coatings are currently used to fight infections. Nano and microstructures are of high interest because these interact with cells on a different level and even have the capability of being internalized. Functional designing of nanogels has become an attractive domain of biomedical engineering to develop bioactive materials with innovative features for human health care. Biopolymers are natural polymers that offers enormous possibility in different areas of the biomedical field due to their multifunctional structure. One of the polymer is chitosan is a beautiful polymer that contains hydroxyl and amino functionality. These polymer itself may entrap herbal molecules leading to a bioactive hydrogel matrix. These biopolymer-based dressings with improved functionalities and antimicrobial properties have shown enormous potential in the biomedical field. In one of our study, we prepared the bioactive gel by reducing silver ions using aloe vera gel and stabilizes with polyvinyl alcohol in such a way that nano silver is encapsulated in the nanogel within the polymer chains. These bioactive gel further coated on the fabric. We use the khadi fabric. This functional khadi fabric offers antimicrobial properties against bacterial strains and shows excellent skin compatibility. A closer look at the same image of these nanosilver nanogel enclosed in PVA matrix shows a spherical nanoparticle structure in the PVA gel matrix, which may be in fact termed as nanosilver core within a gel matrix. The antibacterial activities of the nanogels were determined by colony count method against E. coli and S. aureus. Nanogels with varying concentration of silver 1, 5, 10 millimole, 10, 20 millimole were used against bacterial strains. As the concentration of silver increases in the bacterial nanogel, a sharp reduction in the viable counts was observed bioactive nanogels showed complete reduction in bacterial growth by restricting bacterial activity. Further bacterial adherence on the pristine, these nanogels be immobilized on the khadi fabric, and then this khadi fabric was studied against this bacterial strain, and the bacterial adherence on the pristine and nanogel finished khadi fabric was investigated by SEM. In pristine fabric, we can see the colonies of this bacteria was grow, and in nanogel finished khadi fabric, we can see there is a sharp reduction in the growth of bacterial strain in both of the species, in E. coli and also in S. aureus. The skin compatibility of this finished fabric was studied by acute dermal irritation in Swiss albino mice. None of these might show any overt sign of dermal toxicity during single or multiple use of this nanogel finished khadi fabric. Absence of these reaction confirm that these nanogels are safe and non-irritant in nature, and finishing with these nano hydrogel or nano silver nanogels is biocompatible enough to offer an interesting approach for the development of this antimicrobial fabric. So this is the current demand of the present scenario, that we need this antimicrobial fabric for the protection against the virus attacks. Now, however, what really matters is the matrix. Is the base matrix is hydrophilic or hydrophobic? Cotton is hydrophilic in nature and can interact with any molecule, but polypropylene, if we can see in case of these the synthetic polymers, they has no functional group for interaction. Therefore, we have to functionalize the PP surface to create functional groups on its surface. So one of the approach is plasma. With plasma, we can functionalize the materials in few seconds. Plasma can be used to functionalize this polypropylene surface. If we treat it with polypropylene with oxygen plasma, we can get hydrophilic functionality on the surface. As we see, the contact angle of pristine polypropylene fabric is around 90 degrees. But if we can functionalize this fabric with oxygen plasma, we can see the contact angle of the surface reduces to 30 degrees. So in our another work, we have functionalized PP fabric by plasma processing. We have immobilized its surface with chitosan chlorhexidine nanogels to develop a material that would resist the microbial attack on its surface. Chitosan chlorhexidine nanogels were prepared by the ionic gelation method, and this drug-loaded nanogels were immobilized onto plasma functionalized PP fabric using polyethylene glycol. Different concentration of chlorhexidine, 1 to 4% we used in our study to optimize the drug-loaded nanogels. And then the time images of chitosan nanogels and chitosan chlorhexidine nanogels presented here in the figure. Nanogel particle size ranges from 50 to 100 nanometer. From time images, we can see these chitosan nanogels are in agglomeration form, but in drug-loaded nanogels, we can see the small size of these nanogels. Further, we use the EDX for the confirmation of the successful loading of drug into these nanogels. Chlorine presence in EDX results confirm the presence of this chlorhexidine in nanogels, whereas phosphorus indicates the cross links between the chitosan chains made by the cross-linking agent. EDX mapping was done on these coated fabric samples to check the presence of different elements on the surface or their distribution. Further, the contact angle of pristine fabric, as we can see in pristine fabric, the contact angle is around this 90 degree. But further, after the immobilization of these nanogel on its surface, we can see the contact angle of the surface is around 30 degrees. So this shows the hydrophilicity of these nanogels, or how we can change the morphology of a hydrophobic surface into the hydrophilic. Further, we studied these nanogel finished fabric by colony count study. We can see that in control sample we have we see the growth of these bacterial colonies, but in chitosan chlorhexidine finished nanogel, we can see there is a reduction of bacteria. We can't able to see any of the colony in the system. Further, we proceed this experiment towards the skin compatibility of finished fabric. We can see there is no overt sign of any dermal toxicity on the mice skin. So these nanogel finished fabrics are the good candidate to prepare these antimicrobial finished fabrics. This is the good choice. How we can modify the fabric to antimicrobial fabric. So concluding my talk, these nano hydrogels, this is a beautiful moiety for the development of bioactive surfaces. Aloe vera induced nano silver nanogels we can prepare in this method. High hydrophilicity of these nanogels. We saw these high hydrophilicity of these nanogel immobilized fabric. Plasma is a good approach to functionalize the surface of these fabrics. Chitosan chlorhexidine, this approach for the nanogel formulation is we saw that this is a good approach to functionalize the fabric to antimicrobial fabric. So these antimicrobials show the complete inhibition of bacterial growth in both of the cases, and also shows the good skin compatibility when we use in the animal study. And these fabrics show that they have the capacity to form the antimicrobial fabric in the biomedical field. So this is all about, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Chetna. We can take one question from audience side. If anybody want to know something from Dr. Chetna, one question we can take quickly. If there is no question, then it's okay. Dr. Chetna, which solvent, which solvent you use to dissolve this chitosan during the process of nanogel formation?
Sir, chitosan always soluble in the acidified solution, acidified water. Mainly, we took the acidified water to dissolve the chitosan.
What pH?
Sir, the pH is around 3 to 4.
3 to 4. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Chetna. If somebody want to ask some question to Dr. Chetna, they can raise their question in chat box. She will answer there, because we are already running short of time.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Now I would like to invite the next speaker of this session. She is Dr. Vandana Kumari. I think she also belongs to the same Department of Textile and Fiber Engineering, although her department is not mentioned in the detailed program. So I would like to invite Vandana Kumari to start her talk.
Thank you, sir. Chepa, you need to stop sharing. Thank you, Chepa.
Yes.
Is my presentation is visible?
Yeah.
Okay. Good morning to all. Myself, Vandana Kumari, and today I'm going to present on the topic preparation and characterization of T. Arjuna loaded PCL nanofibrous mat for wound healing application. Wound is actually becoming global concern, global health concern, and it's urgently needed medical as well as research attention. What actually creating the problem is the delay in the wound healing, and one of such factor is bacterial infection. These bacteria invade at the wounded site and actually not only the healing the process, but also create problem for the patient like painful and as also the amputation of the body part when it spread, to control the spreading of the bacteria to all over the body part. So we need to stop this bacteria from get invaded at the wounded site. So first of all, the thing which come in our mind against bacteria is antibiotic. Unfortunately, the use of this bacteria from such a long duration has actually evolved them, and now they are able to resist multi-drug. And so they are becoming super bacteria somewhere. So now the need is to search any alternative of this antibiotic which can be used to control this infection. So obviously we need some substrate to load this bacteria. So in medical textile, currently we have several such options like hydrogel, hydrocolloid, films, foam, gauze, and etc. All these are actually helpful in different kind of wound, having several kind of advantages like flexibility, easy to use, moderately absorptive, etc. But one of the dressing which is least explored till nowadays is nanofiber. So what makes this nanofiber different from other dressing material is its size, that is nano range. Due to its nano's range, it provides us high surface area to volume ratio. This actually helpful to deliver our drug like antimicrobial. Not only that, it is also helpful due to the property like good porosity, high aspect ratio, and biomimicking nature. So overall, it provides us the features like it absorbs exudate at the wounded site, provide moist environment for cell respiration, and also helpful for the wound healing process and protect the injured tissue from dehydration. And to make it antimicrobial, we are opting herbs. Herbs contain several kinds of phytochemicals, which is also known as the secondary metabolite. For example, terpenoid, phenol, flavonoid, etc. So using the different mechanism, it kills the bacteria where it acts on its nucleotide, protein, or cell membrane. So even if bacteria is able to evolve itself against one of the compound, then to the rest of the phytochemicals are there to kill them, which make it more profitable for us. Along with these phytochemicals, herbs also have shows the property like antioxidant and also help us to enhance this healing process. So the objective of my work is to study and to develop the antimicrobial PCL nanofiber for incorporating the herbal extract Tearzona that can be actually helpful for wound healing application. So we have taken the polymer polycaprolactone PCL, which is biodegradable. So with respect to time, it's going to degrade and do not create any waste in environment. Also, it is biocompatible. That is, there will be no issue at the cellular level. Meanwhile, it is also FDA approved and already in use in medical textile. For making it antimicrobial, we are using the herb Tearzona, that is Terminalia arjuna, which is also mentioned in our Ayurveda, and also it shows the antimicrobial property. So to develop the nanofiber, we have actually added the herbal extract in the PCL solution and further electrospun it. And this developed nanofibrous mat was characterized, and also its antimicrobial activity was checked against gram-positive and gram-negative bacteria for 24 hours. So these are my results. Here, as we can see that when we check in the SEM analysis, we can see as we have increased the concentration of herbal extract Tearzona 5, 10, 20%, the green fiber diameter has increased, showing the incorporation of herbs inside it. And also its mean fiber diameter distribution has widened up. Next, antioxidant activity. So as we can see here, in comparison to control, that is DPPH shows the violet color. But when we have added the herbal extract, it has reduces the DPPH color from violet to yellow color, showing its antioxidant activity. Then we have further explored its antimicrobial property using colony counting method, where if we compare it with the respect to control, we can see how much efficiency it shows. It shows more than 99% efficiency toward both the bacteria, positive and negative. Then further, we have analyzed it under the transmission electron microscopy, the treated bacteria and untreated bacteria, as we can see over here, how it is able to disrupt the whole cell membrane, and it has actually burst out completely. So we can see how much effective our drug is against this. And therefore, these are my conclusions. We are successfully able to develop the antimicrobial PCL-TA matrix, which is effective against both gram-positive as well as negative bacteria. And along with this, it also shows the antioxidant activity, and it shows great potential for wound healing application. These are my references. Thank you.
Thank you, Vandana. My special thanks to you for presenting your talk in very smart way, in very judicious way, in limited time. So special thanks
you,
to you.
sir.
If anybody want to ask some question to Dr. Vandana, they can make their comments in chat box, because we are running short of time. So I would like to invite the next presenter of this session. She is Subhalakshmi Kropi Bhuyan. She belongs to NIFT Bengaluru, and she will talk about the study on adaptive sports wear for wheelchair tennis players. So Vandana, you stop your sharing now. Please allow to sharing to Subhalakshmi. So over to Subhalakshmi.
I hope my screen is visible.
Yeah, screen is visible. Now you can start.
Okay.
Somebody else has is not muted himself. Please mute. Okay.
Okay.
Now you can start, please.
Okay, thank you, sir. Good morning, everyone. I'm Subhalakshmi. I'm from National Institute of Fashion Technology, Bangalore. And the topic which I'm going to present today is a study on adaptive sportswear for wheelchair tennis players of India. So wheelchair tennis is gaining its momentum in India, especially in places like Bangalore, Delhi, Chennai, Hyderabad, Mumbai, etc. And it is also included in all the Grand Slams of the world. And there are two divisions here: the open class, which is especially for paraplegic players, and quad class, which is for the tetraplegic players. In India, all India Tennis Association organizes wheelchair tennis tournaments as per International Tennis Federation rules. So according to Disability Census data 2016 in India, 21 million people fall under differently able category, and they are like suffering from polymyelitis, accidents, illnesses, etc. And adaptive clothing, as we have seen in literature, is designed basically for people with physical disabilities or the elderly who may experience difficulty in dressing. And adaptive sportswear can boost the morale of differently abled players and help them perform the task of playing the game in a better way. So here is a mind map of adaptive clothing, which is found in the literature, and with respect to parasport, and of course to give more emphasis on the wheelchair tennis. A study was conducted in Karnataka State Lawn Tennis Association, and here are the players during a practice session. So if you see this picture on the left-hand side, the player, he pushes the rim of the wheel with one hand, and with the other hand, he holds the racket and hits the ball, and it should fall exactly on the same direction where he wants to. So it is not an easy task. And the only difference with the regular tennis is they are allowed to hit the ball, and the ball can fall twice on the court. And that is how they play the game. And on the right-hand side, the picture shows the orthoses which the player use and to keep the leg firm. So the need of the project, a pilot study was done with wheelchair tennis players at Karnataka State Lawn Tennis Association in 2019. And adaptive sportswear catering to wheelchair tennis players is missing in Indian market, what we have seen. And limited literature on adaptive sportswear in the Indian context have been seen. The objective is to design and develop adaptive sportswear for wheelchair tennis players in India with a user-centric approach. Coming to research methodology, the needs and requirements of wheelchair tennis players are very different from a regular tennis player. So ethnographic study was conducted and to identify the players, to study the problems related to adaptive sportswear, and to focus group interviews were conducted. Observation in the field was done, wheelchair tennis movement and strokes were studied, sweat areas were studied, and also injuries which they suffer. And analysis of basic requirements, thermal body mapping of players using different sportswear designs, study of fabric properties, sourcing of samples, analysis, and then design development. Some of the questions, the research questions which were asked, like, are you satisfied with the sportswear that you are currently wearing? What are the problems that you face? And does the sportswear restrict movement while playing the wheelchair tennis? And do you want to have any modifications? Like, do you want to add something or subtract something? And can you rate comfortability, safety, functionality, aesthetic appearance, etc.? The users were basically men and women wheelchair users from different economic strata and players affected by polymyelitis, accident, spinal cord injury, and they are national and international wheelchair tennis players of India. So here is a video to just to have a glimpse of their practice session. If you see, it is it gives that sense of, like playing together, and it's kind of a recreation, as well as they are so much motivated to play even national and international wheelchair tennis. So here is a picture showing women's singles final that was held in 2019. Tabibia opened in Bangalore, and it happens every year. So this is again to boost the morale and playing the game and moving forward. So some of the research findings. General characteristics: easy to don and doff, easy to use fasteners. There should not be any friction between sportswear and wheelchair. Freedom of independent dressing, undressing, then use of washrooms. Of course, aesthetically appealing, and it should also be fashionable, and probably conceal design modifications if possible. Coming to the upper garment, it's maximum movement of the trunk, upper limbs while playing, and reduce drag resistance to upper arm movement, facilitate the process of thermoregulation to avoid fatigue through quick wicking and evaporation of perspiration in different zones like shoulder areas, upper arms, below bust area, sides of the trunk, thighs and crotch area, and have longer length at the back to prevent the rise of sportswear during the match. Coming to my lower garment, it's the higher back rise than usual track pants to avoid slippage, wider waistbands, and it should be adjustable to the leg length, should facilitate the use of braces and calipers. The lower should provide enough stretch and room at the crotch and suitable fabric to prevent excessive heat and build up and sweating through quick wicking. It should be free from thick and hard seams to prevent pressure sores at the back and buttock areas. Infrared thermography was conducted to study the changes in the skin temperature, and thermoregulation of the players during the match in an actual setup was seen. And it is IR image, as you all know, it's a non-contact, effortless, and low-price technique to map the body to test body temperature variations. And studies have shown the influence of physical activity on skin temperature and assessed the same with infrared thermography. So here is an image of IR image of a women tennis player at 6, 12, and 18 minutes to see the cutaneous temperature rise and the hot zones of the body. And this was done with Fluke TAI 480 Pro. Some of the flat sketches of some of the samples of upper and lower garments. to show one or two prototypes. It here, this is one which is racerback top, and it's a laser triangle cut at the front below the bust for air circulation. Mesh fabric at the lower back for more ventilation, and stitchless technology is also used here. It's a hybrid garment. And stitchless, it is a heat activated adhesive bonding using tape has been executed to seal panels, edge finishes of neckline, armhole, etc. for flat and neat finishes, seams. And this is a player wearing the same particular prototype and with an IR image. The second prototype, it is again a top, which a raglan sleeve laser cut hybrid t-shirt. And it is laser triangle cut at the upper back of the air circulation. Mesh fabric at sleeves and below the bust front. Wave panel for more ventilation. Again, stitchless technology has been used for flat and neat seams and stitches. User trial for this particular prototype as well with IR image. To conclude, the purpose of the study was to find out the problem with existing sportswear design in the Indian context, and user-centric research has been carried out to find out the problems related to the players in the rear setup. Infrared thermal imaging techniques were used to study the changes in the skin temperature of the players during the match. Here are my references. Thank you very much.
Sir, you are on mute.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Subbalakshmi, for this nice presentation. Although a lot of science were involved here, but you really worked for a noble cause. So my special thanks to you, and I wish you very big success in this field.
Thank you very much.
Now, next presenter is Ashutosh Pandey. He belongs to Uttar Pradesh Textile Technology Institute, Kanpur. Is he here?
Sir, he is not here. We can continue with Miss Pratibha, and after
He
that,
has just joined. He has just joined.
Yes, sir. He is.
He has joined, I think. He has joined. Ashutosh, can you hear me? Ashutosh, unmute yourself.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Ashutosh Pandey is a research scholar at Uttar Pradesh Textile Technology Institute, Kanpur, and he's working in the field of bacterial cellulose. And today he will talk about the application of various textile waste or waste from textile industry as a nutrient for the production of bacterial cellulose. So over to Ashutosh Pandey. Ashutosh, you can share your screen here.
Okay, sir.
Yes, now you can go ahead.
Good morning, sir. My name is Ashutosh Pandey. Today I am presenting my topic on utilization of cotton knitting industry waste for medical textile application. Nowadays, nanotechnology is advanced and quickly developed field of material engineering. Nanofiber are defined as a fiber with the diameter less than 100 nanometer. In textile, it will be 1000 nanometer. Nanostructured cellulose known as nanocellulose. This may be in form of cellulose nanocrystal, cellulose nanofiber, nanofibrillated, and bacterial nanocellulose. These are few sources by which we can obtain nanocellulose. Wood, sugar, beet, potato, hemp, flax, we can obtain from these source nano or microfibrillated cellulose. wood, cotton, hemp, flax, wheat, straw, etc. we can obtain from this source, nanocrystalline cellulose. And bacterial nanocellulose is basically produced from the bacteria, which have a fibril diameter is 20 to 100 nanometer. This is the few composition of different sources by which we can obtain bacteria, which can obtain nanocellulose, where cotton fiber having a high cellulose content, 80 to 96%. So that's why we have taken knitting industry, cotton knitting industry waste in our study. Preparation of nanocellulose. For the preparation of nanocellulose, sample pre-treatment is done for the removal of impurities, and then alkali treatment is done for the removal of hemicellulose, then bleaching, then purified cellulose is prepared in nanocellulose form by mechanical defibrillation or chemical hydrolysis. This is the property of nanocellulose: biocompatibility, high crystallinity, stiffness, biodegradability, high aspect ratio, mechanical strength, non-toxicity, which shows that the nanocellulose has high intensity for the medical textile application. First nanocellulose was prepared by using sulfuric acid and hydrochloric acid hydrolysis from wood and cotton in 1947. Wang et al. 2014 successfully prepared nanocellulose by using 70.5 weight% NaOH, and Sekar and Rahim proposed a facile approach to prepare the nanocellulose from microcrystalline cellulose using NaOH and urea. Major drawback of this study is the use of highly concentrated acid. Highly concentrated acid has highly corrosive effect on the reaction container. In addition, the acid-based liquid is difficult to recycle, causing serious pollution to the environment. That's why in our study, we have done preparation of nanocellulose by using cotton knitting industry, industry waste, identification of particle size and crystalline size of prepared nanocellulose on different concentration of NaOH and urea. We have prepared 4 samples. A sample having 10% NaOH and 5% urea, B sample having 15% NaOH and 10% urea, C sample having 5% NaOH and 10% urea, D sample having 10% NaOH and 15% urea. We have taken 2% cotton waste in each sample. We have taken cotton knitting industry waste and first done scoring and bleaching for the cleaning the cotton, and then done acetylation by taking 2% H2SO4, and then preparation of nanocellulose was done by NaOH and urea hydrolysis. So in C sample, we have seen that the nano size of nanocellulose was found 2.37 nanometer, and the particle size was found 907 nanometer with crystallinity of 70%. The purity of nanocellulose was examined by FTIR analysis. In FTIR analysis, the transmittance band shows at 3343, which shows high hydroxylic group stretching, and in 1636 shows C double bond O group, and at 1027 shows CO group. From the literature study, we have found same spectrum as found in our study. Nanocellulose crystal size analysis was done by the XRD diffraction analysis. From the XRD graph, we have found the average crystallized size is 9.07 for the first sample, and for C sample we found 2.3 nanometer. So further we have done nanoparticle size analysis. We have seen that C sample having 907 nanometer range, other one having more particle size. So finally, the conclusion is nanocellulose has been prepared by using minimum amount of NaOH and twice amount of urea. The possible swelling mechanism of the aqueous mixture is that sodium hydroxide hydrates destroy the intermolecular and intramolecular hydrogen bonds in cellulose, where the amino group of urea easily form hydrogen bonds with hydroxyl group in cellulose. The synergistic action of NaH and urea prevent binding between cellulose molecules and finally weakens the binding force of cellulose molecules. The purity of cellulose characterized by the TAI analysis. The crystallite size has been obtained 2.37 nanometer from X-ray diffraction analysis from using 5% NaH and 10% urea. The particle size has been obtained 907 nanometer from particle size analysis. 5% NaH and twice urea has the advantage of low cost and relative very low toxicity. Thank you.
Thank you, Astos, for your kind presentation. Now we can take only one question from audience side. If there any question, then one question can be taken. Okay, if there is no question, then it's fine. Now our next presenter is Pratibha Singh. She's also from the Textile and Fiber Engineering Department, IIT Delhi. I would like to invite Pratibha to start her talk here. Pratibha, are you here?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay.
Ashutosh, can you please stop sharing your screen
Okay.
so that I can share mine? Sir, is it visible?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Very well visible. Please.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm Pratibha Singh from IIT Delhi. Today, I'm going to present on the topic, the preparation of anti-fouling, carrageenan and PEG lecithin membranes for wound care. Normally, skin is the largest organ of the human body, which plays a significant role in protecting the body from any microbial attacks. And secondly, it will help in maintaining the hemostasis and also the most important, the other physiological functions of the body. Now, what happens if this wound is left, if this wound get damaged due to some accidents or the trauma? That will lead to the bruises and the cuts. And if these cuts and bruises are left untreated, then they ultimately cause the chronic wounds, which will ultimately leads to the clinical threat to the human health. Normally, people use the medical gauges to cover such wounds, which will protect it from, which act as a physical barrier while protecting it from any kind of a microbial attack to the wound site. But the main problem of with using these medical gauges is that there is a painful removal. While you remove it from the wound site, there is a painful removal with the secondary damage to the newly healed tissue. That's why the hydrogel membranes comes in the picture. Basically, the hydrogel membranes have the good high water content capacity. They have the structure similarity to the native extracellular matrix. And the most important, they have the soothing and the cooling effect, which will ultimately help in the painless removal without any secondary damage. But the main problem with using these hydrogel membranes is that sometimes due to their high moist characteristic, the bacteria will adhere to their surfaces at the wound interface. And these few bacteria which adhere on their surface, they will rapidly proliferate and ultimately form the biofilm at the surface. And these biofilm will cause the serious bacterial infection, which will hamper the wound healing process. Thus, there is a requirement to develop the hydrogel membranes with inherent their property like moist characteristic, but along with that, they also should have some anti-fouling property in them. That is to prevent the bacteria attachment on their surfaces, to prevent the bacterial infection, and at the same time simultaneously help in preventing the protein adsorption and the cell adhesion, which will ultimately help in the painless removal without secondary damage. With keeping this objective in mind, we choose mainly three components for our system. The first one is a carrageenan. Carrageenan is basically the biopolymer which has a sulfonic group. It has the main property like high exudate absorption capacity which will ultimately help in the wound healing process. It has a high hydrophilicity. It has a good hydrogel forming ability, and its structure resembles to the glucose aminoglycal structure, which will promote the wound healing process. But the main problem of using the carrageenan individually is that it will form the brittle. It has this brittle nature of the hydrogel. That's why we choose the PEG in the system, which is biocompatible, which has a plasticizer effect, and it has a good anti-fouling property too, which will prevent the bacterial attachment to the surface. And in order to get the good superior anti-fouling and antioxidant property, because sometimes the bacterial infection is also associated with the ROS, excessive ROS generation, which will hamper the wound healing process. That's why in order to integrate the anti-fouling property simultaneously with the good antioxidant property, we choose the soil lecithin, which is the phosphatidyl-choline lipid, and which is a zwitterionic property. And it has a good surface lubricating property. And because of the good surface lubricating property, we thought that it would help in the painless removal from the wound site. So with these components, our approach is we choose a very simple facile approach of the solvent casting methodology, where we first prepare the carrageenan with optimize the carrageenan with the PEG ratio, and then this optimized carrageenan PEG hydrogel matrix base, we added the varying concentration of the lecithin from 5 to 25 weight%, and then by the blending and the solvent casting methodology, we prepared these hydrogel membrane without using any organic solvent and the external cross-linker. So these are some characteristics by which we perform in order to optimize the best ratio of the CEG, PG, and LC, with best mass ratio of CEG, PG to LC. As you can see from the SEM analysis, the morphological, which tells the morphological analysis of the surface of hydrogel membrane, that as we are adding the lecithin to the CEG, PG till 15%, there is a smooth and the homogeneous surface morphology, which indicates that beyond 15%, whatever LC concentration that we are adding to the CEG-PG, it is uniformly dispersed into the matrix and will form a strong compatibility and the physical interactions with the CEG-PG. But beyond 15%, that is 20-25%, you can see there is some unreacted LC that is observed on the surface of the hydrogel membrane. These unreacted LC will form due to their non-dispersity or heterogeneity of the surface, that is due to the phase that will results in the phase separation of the system. Then we perform the mechanical studies to check the mechanical properties of these membranes. As you can see that these membranes are very easy to handle after adding of the lecithin. They can easily fold, they can twist, they can easily knot, and then they release. So they can undergo the different mechanical deformations very easily without any breaking. At the same time, from this mechanical curve, you can see that as we are adding the lecithin content, the tensile strength is increasing till 15%, and then it is decreasing, which means that till 15%, that the concentration of LC that we are adding, it will undergo the physical interactions with the CEG-PEG matrix polymer chain, and at the same time, it is compatible to the system, as we are already seen in the SEM1. And beyond 15%, there is a deterioration of the tensile strength, which is due to the self-agglomeration of the lecithin micelles, which will form its independent domain and incompatibility to the system. Now, interestingly, it is worth noting that after adding of the lecithin content, this elongation percent, that is the breaking strain, it is increasing as we are increasing the lecithin content. That is due to the sticky and the viscoelastic nature of the lipid constituent present in the lecithin, which will provide it the plasticizing effect, and that's why the strain percent is increasing and the Young modulus is decreasing with increase in the lecithin content. So with these study, we choose the 15% for our further analysis because it has a good tensile property, good elongation, good SEM compatible system. Now then we perform the elemental analysis to check that the presence of the lecithin in the CEG-PG matrix. As you can see that in the CEG-PG LC matrix, there is a presence of phosphate and nitrogen along with the sulfate, which is due to the carrageenan. So that's why we can say that the LC is present in the CEG-PG matrix, CEG-PG LC hydrogel membrane. This is the AFM analysis where you can see that the CEG hydrogel membrane, it has a very rough surface and the rough surface topography. And in CEG-PG, it is decreased, the smoothness increased, and further addition of the LC will increase the smoothness of the surface. That means the LC is compatible to the CEG-PG system after adding. Then we perform the anti-fouling studies by the SEM bacterial adherence analysis, where you can see that by using the S. aureus and E. coli bacteria, where you can see that in the CGPG and CGPG-LC, very few bacteria adhere on the surface due to the anti-fouling and synergistic property of PEG and LC present in the system. Then we perform the antioxidant analysis because antioxidant is required for promoting the good wound management. And lecithin has itself inherent antioxidant property in them, as you can see from the positive control. So that's why we thought that after adding into the CGPG-LC, as you can see, this is a time-dependent antioxidant it showed comparison to the CGPG, which means that the CGPG-LC hydrogel membrane has a good antioxidant property also. So with this, I conclude my talk by saying that in this study, we choose a very simple, facile approach of forming the CGPG-LC hydrogel membrane through solvent casting methodology, where we see that the addition of this LC colloidal solution will be uniformly dispersed into the matrix and exhibited homogeneity without any phase separation. And they also showed the good mechanical features. Then addition of LC, because it has a zwitter ionic phosphatidylcholines in it, they will provide the hydrogel membrane with the superior anti-fouling property and superior antioxidant property at the same time. Does our finding indicate that such kind of anti-fouling and antioxidant hydrogel membrane, they can provide a good potential for forming the hydrogel for infected wound healing with painless removal without causing any secondary damage to the newly healed tissue. Thank you.
Thank you, Pratibha, for completing your presentation within prescribed time limit. So at the end of this session, I am thankful to all 5 presenters who have presented their experiences and their studies in this session, which is session 10. And everybody was very much sincere about the time limit. So I am thankful to all presenters who presented in this session, and I am very much thankful to the organizers also who gave me this opportunity to chair this session and interact with all learned researchers of this session. So now over to Rohini and Dr. Chetna.
Thank you so much, sir, for conducting this session so beautifully. And thank you all. And now it's tea break for us. It's from 10:30 to 11. After that, we'll start other sessions. Thank you.
It is tea break for only for you or only for us also?
Sir, you can also take tea.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
We are just waiting. Yeah, our session chair is here. So welcome you all in the panel discussion. It's the session 13, and it is on panel discussion on sustainability. So on behalf of the Textile Tech 2022, I welcome you all. So for today's session chair, I would like to call Sobhika Sivasamy. He is Associate Director of Sobhika Implex Private Limited. He is going to chair our session, and we have three eminent panelists. Natarajan Shah, who is a technical head at Sobhika Implex Private Limited. Sanjeev Mehan, who works at ICL Digital Private Limited, and Francisca Hatpili, who is working at the Vita company. So I welcome you all. I request all the panelists to introduce themselves in a short introduction, and then we can start the panel discussion. So I guess, yeah.
Hi, good morning. My name is Sobhika Sivasamy. Yes. So thank you so much for having me on this panel for the discussion on sustainability. Just a small introduction about myself. I'm the Associate Director at Sobhika Impex. We manufacture recycled polyester yarn.
Sorry, ma'am, to disturb you. You are going to chair the session. So the first panelist will introduce, and then you will introduce the topic. There was a slight change in the plan. So you are going to chair the session today. And first, first all the panelists will tell their introduction, and then you will start the discussion and take the floor to yourself.
Sure, that's okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
So I will let the panelists introduce themselves first.
Yes,
hello, everybody. My name is Natarajan Shah. I am a chemical engineer and MBA. And my career has been in the man-made fiber industry for the last 40 years, exactly not from the core research, but from the industry. And I have been now heading I was with Reliance Industries Limited for a long time. And now I'm heading the Sobhika Impex Polyester Recycling Division. Thank you.
Oh, can you hear me, please?
Yes, sir.
Okay. My name is Sanjeev Mehan. I'm a textile engineer, and I'm an MBA from Faculty of Management Studies, University of Delhi. I'm CEO and co-founder of a ladies' western wear brand by the name of I Love She.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Hello, everybody. My name is Francisca Hatpili. I have an MBA in management, and I'm I'm the head of marketing at Rieter. Rieter is a company based in Switzerland. That's also where I'm sitting and where I'm from. And we are providing machines for short staple fiber spinning. I will tell a bit more about that later. Warm welcome, everybody.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So like I was telling before, so I'm the Associate Director at Sobhika Impex, where we manufacture recycled polyester yarn, where Mr. Shah, who has enormous amount of experience, has joined us today, is the technical head. And I just have a small presentation on sustainability, where we'll be focusing more on open loop as well as closed loop recycling. So we will just get started and take the discussion from there. I hope that's okay for everyone.
Yeah.
Okay. Just give me 1 minute. Can everybody see my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's visible.
Okay, so my presentation today will be focusing on corporate sustainability as well as on sustainable textiles. So we will focus on what we call rewiring the economy to achieve the sustainable development goals on closed loop value chain, as well as on the textile to textile recycling. So these are the sustainable development goals that have been set by the United Nations. They're known as global goals, a set of 17 integrated and interrelated goals, and a lot of which that businesses can actually contribute to in terms of achieving these goals. And I think one of the most significant ones are responsible consumption and production. And of course, several others that come under that. So it could be climate action, life below water, life on land, decent work and economic growth, industry, innovation, and infrastructure. These are all sustainable development goals that businesses, of course, in collaboration with the economy and government, should be able to achieve. And so this is the business plan. Any business, as we all know, thrives on a very clear long-term plan. And the plan should focus on creating and enabling the conditions for sustainable business. And these are the conditions that, if present, would ideally encourage capital to flow into sustainable business models on the basis of their superior risk and return. And the main vision for this plan is to lift and tilt the playing field for business, such that over time, the economy generates positive outcomes for people within a safe environmental limit. And this business plan is an opportunity for business, government, finance leaders, other economical stakeholders to actually work together on a common and an ideally beneficial agenda for all of us. Okay, so when talking about rewiring the economy, I think there are three main principles that we should be focusing on. The first principle is delivering the outcomes demanded by SDG. The economy should and be able to do this. Otherwise, how can we expect the government to actually achieve these goals by 2030? So the first principle focuses on the fact that the economy can and should be delivering the outcomes that are demanded by the Sustainable Development Goals. And the second principle is that there are three chief actors in this economy. The first is business, the second is government, and the third is finance. All three of them have a very good reason and also responsibility in implementing these Sustainable Development Goals. And for this to happen in a very smooth manner, it's important that they work together as partners. And the third principle is that we have a set of 10 universal tasks that needs to be identified, and they can actually guide the necessary structure and cultural changes that needs to happen in this economy. I hope I'm not going too fast for anyone.
No, I'm okay with it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, so these are the 10 goals that needs to be implemented by the three chief actors, like I've explained, which is the business, government, and finance. So I think the first three would be focusing more on what the government needs to do, just setting the right targets and measures, aligning incentives to support better outcomes, and driving socially useful innovations. And the next three would be what the finance needs to do, which is ensuring capital acts for long-term, value the true cost of business activities, and actually innovate the finance structures to support business that are focusing more on sustainability and closed loop recycling and other such activities. And the next four would be what I will be talking about more in detail, which is aligning organizational purpose and strategy, and the other three that follows. So when it comes to this, I think finance is the fuel of the economy, and then business is the engine. So that would be like, a basic way of explaining how finance and business works together. And any serious rewiring of the economy would require business engagement and leadership. So these are the four strategic tasks that businesses needs to implement. The first would be aligning organizational strategy and business models. So businesses would need to align their organizational strategy and business models with sustainable development, such that the business exists to have a positive relationship or a positive impact on the environment. And this needs to happen without compromising the organizational values or the stakeholders. And in order to have like a regenerative business model, they need to go towards a circular material flow that focuses more on sustainable production and consumption. And the second would be to set evidence-based targets and measure them and be transparent. This is very important because when you're setting evidence-based targets, businesses needs to adapt new measures to be transparent and actually understand the true impact that they have on the environment. And third is to embed sustainability in practices and decisions This is very important because we always focus on the values or returns that we get in short term. And often long term is considered more of a vision that we would achieve at one point without actually taking the actions that needs to be done right now. So understanding the real rate and real nature of how the business is progressing, we need to embed the sustainability in all of our decision making in the short term and kind of compromise certain factors now so we can achieve the desired results in long term. And the fourth would be to engage, collaborate, and advocate for change. This is very essential because often sustainability is viewed something as, something that has to be done. Like, I need to meet the government rules. I need to do this because it is required. I think it is high time that we move beyond what is required and advocate for change within this business model, because often manufacturing units are forced by brands or by the people that they're working with in order to make certain changes that will allow them to be more transparent, that allow them to be sustainable, or honestly this needs to change because we need to move beyond what is considered essential and look at a more wider picture. And this is what we call closed loop value chain within the textile industry. Closed loop value chain is kind of the ideal situation that we hope to achieve, but it is definitely not an easy task. So a lot of companies, including Shobika here, we are also focusing more on closed open loop recycling. Open loop recycling is basically using recycled feedstock from other industries. For example, PET bottles. So what we do at Shobika is recycle PET bottles to make recycled polyester yarn, which is partially oriented yarn, fully drawn yarn, and drawn textured yarn, and also flakes and sewing threads out of these. So, so this is the open loop recycling, but closed loop recycling is what we would consider very, very ideal, because that would kind of eliminate post-consumer waste from ending up in landfills or being incinerated or being burnt in places that, it's just a very unideal situation for everyone. So as you can see here, this kind of explains closed loop recycling. Yeah, so closed loop value chain basically takes a fundamentally non-linear approach, and this combines forward and reverse supply chains where product waste is incorporated into the production of raw materials. Okay. So moving on, this is the value chain for recycling. I think there are three prime factors. One is material innovation, the second is establishing a value chain, and the third is progressive leadership. When it comes down to material innovation, first we need to make sure, and this applies for both open and closed loop, we need to ensure that materials are suitable for loop closure. We need to make sure that these materials are actually sustainable, that they can be reused. And second is having a rigorous waste segregation system. And this I can personally vouch for in our industry. It's very important to know what can be, I won't say good waste, but kind of we need to have a rigorous waste segregation system so that we don't compromise on quality and kind of what the end product delivers. So we need to make sure that, for example, we are using PET bottles. We need to make sure that the segregation is proper and how the other materials are being handled. And the third is to encourage innovation. This is very obvious for when you're moving towards a system where you're using an end product as a raw material. It's very important that all sectors of the supply chain encourage innovation. And then moving on to establishing a value chain, I think we need to collaborate for shared values and opportunities. There's a lot of factors that come into the supply chain, all the way from the raw material, which actually is an end product. So the PET bottles, or in textile to textile recycling, it could be the garment itself. So we need to collaborate with several people and several industries for shared values and also for shared opportunities. And the second is understanding the actual value chain. This is very essential when you're moving towards a system that has never been established before. And the third is third and fourth kind of is managing stakeholder complexity. When you're moving towards a new system that has never been done before, there's a lot of complexities, there's a lot of conflicts, and you need to tell the story in terms of stakeholder terms that makes it easier for them to understand where the actual end goal is. And this is very important that you're all aligned for the greater good of the organization rather than personal goals and aims. Like, for example, we have several people on our board that have enormous amount of experience, and everybody have their own, I wouldn't say personal, but kind of what they believe to be right. But we need to look beyond that and what is the greater good for the organization, what our end goal is, what we're aiming to achieve. I think that makes a lot of difference in establishing a sustainable value chain. And the third would be progressive leadership. And this is something that can never be compromised, because this kind of is the heart of the organization. So we need to identify heart and brain of the organization, honestly. So to identify strategic champions, there's certain people who are more willing to take risk, be it management, be it the top, the top management or the middle management. We need to identify people who are ready to be strategic champions. And I think the most important of all, like I explained before, is promoting shared values, looking beyond the personal aims and goals, and kind of understanding what is the greater good for the organization. And third-party catalysts are, and of course, a very essential part. Like we said, the three core parties for achieving the SDGs are government, economy, and business, or finance and business. So we need to work together with all of them to achieve the end goal. Now, coming down to textile recycling, I think this is a very complex topic and definitely what we hope to achieve in a few years. So technological maturity, changes to design process, investment, these are the most important in scaling a closed loop recycling. So when it comes to this, I think there's a lot of technological challenges at the moment. A very few companies have been able to master the art of changing textile back into textile itself. So I think it starts with us as manufacturers of garments or manufacturers of, other textile products. I think we need to take into mind the product designing and make sure that we're designing them for such a way that they will be useful or that will enable us to actually close the loop, which is, I know one complexity that we are facing is, the mixture of different types of, fibers. For example, cotton and polyester would make it difficult to actually recycle the textile. So we need to have all of these in mind when you're designing the garment. And investment in capital is again a very big deal. Again, I think this is one thing that we are understanding more as we go into the business, which is consumer demand for recycled products. For a country like India, I think there's very less awareness on this matter. We are more focusing on brands that have this demand or this kind of need to move towards recycled products. This kind of awareness is very essential because, the businesses cannot thrive without the consumer demand. And it's very important that people understand the value of recycled products. There is still a stigma surrounding this in India, I would say, where people think recycled are of lower value or kind of, this is like how India perceives secondhand consumption or thrifting or renting garments. So this was actually what my recent research was about, how developing countries and developed countries or even countries with a more conservative views collaborative fashion consumption, such as secondhand products or renting or thrifting and these kinds of things. So recycled, I would say, is kind of in the middle line of is it good to go for recycled products, or is it something that we consider of lower value or something that's not as good? So this is something that needs to be addressed. And I would say government and business involvement is essential. Government needs to encourage recycled products, needs to encourage consumer consumption of renting and secondhand consumption. And I think businesses also play a very large role. And like I was explaining, one of the major issue that we are facing is sorting of textile and collection of textile. So once this can be addressed, I think there's no stopping textile to textile recycling and closed loop recycling. Moving on to what we are doing at Shobika, just a very small, I think you would have seen the corporate video, which is pretty much self-explanatory. But moving on to what we are actually doing, like I explained, we recycle PET bottles to make finished garments, finished home textiles, sewing thread. I think the range of products is huge. So that kind of makes our technical task, and I would say Shasa's task, more complex, because you need to understand the consumer's actual end use. You need to understand what they are aiming to produce, and that kind of changes how you manufacture the product. We also have a garmenting unit in-house. So we kind of will be able to fully integrate the supply chain at one point and deliver carbon neutral products or zero carbon emission products. So thank you so much for being here. And I would just, coming back to the meeting. I hope I was not too fast and boring.
Not at all. May I take the floor?
Yes, sir, of course.
I just want to share a couple of slides with you, and I'll bring out some very poignant, aspects. But I need to see if this is really visible. I am probably going to have some problem in sharing, it seems. Just a second. Okay, I am going to have some problem in sharing it, but I have the points on another laptop right here, and I'll spell these out. You see, some of these, I'm going to actually first talk about some very burning questions in, in sustainability. One is this, that is it a fad or is it here to stay? Okay. What is the durability of the sustainability phenomenon itself? Well, the answer to that, there was this, UN commission that was set up in 1983. It's called the Brundtland Commission. Forgive me if I don't pronounce it correctly. It defines sustainable development very well. It says that sustainability or sustainable development is what that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. In a sense, what it is saying is that it is for the progeny, it is our responsibility to our future generations that we conserve our planet, we give them, a platform which our forefathers gave. If we can better it, nothing like it, right? So this is, in a sense, what sustainability is all about. Then is it lip service? Like you said, in India is, I'm sure, quite, backward with regard to understanding and applying sustainability, especially in its domestic scenario. Of course, brands that, exports requires sustainable measures for a lot of brands, and they are enforced on us. But here, the awakening is there, but it's a little slow. So is it a gimmick to only make profits? I myself am a bit of a culprit here. When I look at it from a marketing angle, I say, all right, man, here, sustainable. And like you said, use recycled polyester, get a better price. I say, it's cheaper, say, maybe by 25% than, other, say, cotton. But I can market it at a higher price. So I know marketers, I'll request them to forgive me, but it is surely about making profits, but I'm sure there's a larger goal there. Or is it this that, is it this that it's a herd mentality? Everyone is trying to climb onto the bandwagon without really probably understanding, the true meaning and the true value of being sustainable. So this is, another thing. Then one question is this, that are we actually, mostly probably when we talk about sustainability, we talk about environmental sustainability. All right, climate changes are there. We need to therefore protect our environment, use less water, less of plastic waste, so on and so forth, right? But sustainability actually talks about, social aspects. It talks about reducing the disparity between the rich and the poor, other social aspects, girl, boy, and so on and so forth. So, all that discrimination needs to be done away with. Economic disparity, it needs to reduce that. So, sustainability is a big, word. It talks about, all of these three subsets. Now, another thing I wanted to, highlight here is we are all a textile community, right? So sometimes I feel maybe the expression is wrong, like an ostrich, they say, sometimes, which is also probably wrong, that buries its head, in the sand when it sees some, fear or some threat. But we probably, the textile community probably think that, the word sustainability starts with us and ends with us. So we need to look at the macro aspect. We need to understand that this is a global phenomenon. The entire world, all the brands, all the industries are talking about it. And like you said, the West is so much already far ahead of us, and we need to follow suit. But when we need to learn from them, from other industries, when we look at their examples, I'm sure we'll be able to, we will get that much more impetus in trying to, get inspired by them. Then lastly, where are we headed? Where is sustainability actually headed? What all is going to happen in the future? Like you said, 2030, there is this goal, that we need to, all of those 17 goals, need to be sort of, aligned. So how is it really going to happen? How do we envision this? Is it really going to happen? What steps, measures, enforcements, I'll use the word now, because only yesterday, we are, also an exporter. We export to some of the best, designers in the world. And so we had this mail from, one of our chief designers sitting in France. And listen, there is this particular decree that has come into force in, from April 2022. It was formulated a couple of years ago, but it's just been, sort of, and this is called AGEC. It's a decree under the French anti-waste for a circular economy law. It's a law. Now, what they're trying to do here is to work on the traceability of all the inputs that are going into their garment. So they want to know how much percentage of, your processes are first traceable. You know that, where your fabric is coming from, who's knitting it, who's tailoring it. Are you aware? Once you're aware, obviously you can do something to control, the environment there, or control the, inputs there. So they have sent us a long questionnaire, and let me tell you, this law is talking about, actually, it is enforceable. There are going to be, punishments, or there are going to be punitive measures, in terms monetary punitive measures that are going to be taken by companies if they don't adhere to this. So, so this is where probably the world is coming to, the European Union is going to follow suit most probably. So this is a good thing that, the countries, the West is leading the way. They are actually setting up, like you yourself said, transparent and traceable measures of, compliance. And then just as a footnote, I would like to say that because this, this conference of ours is also titled, technological advancements in textiles. Now, smart textiles is also a part of it, right? Now, smart textiles, so is it a boon or is it a bane from the perspective of sustainability? Now, obviously, it is a great thing. Technological advancements are happening. There are going to be, so many better things that are, going to come out of it. And our life is going to be made that much, more comfortable and so on and so forth. But when we put in these, smart textile things, or, processes into, or we build all of these electronic things into it and so on and so forth, and we need to be very careful that, we don't compromise on, sustainability. We need to be extra cautious now, because technological advances can run away with you. Look what happened to the nuclear bomb, so that's what I want to do, majorly talk about.
Thank you so much, sir. I mean, it was very, it was nice to hear you. And like you said, I think there is one thing that we are also experiencing right now. It's kind of the conflict between how much of wanting to be sustainable is actually a marketing gimmick and how much of it actually comes down to you wanting to be sustainable. I think this is something that my father often says, just like it's like a saying that says, if I build a poor hospital for children for my benefit, actually poor children gets treated there. So I think everybody wins at the end. So I think it is the same story here. Even if brands or companies that want to be sustainable engage in that activity as a marketing gimmick, somebody gets benefited at the end.
It is surely.
So I think it is, it is halfway here and there. So I think the end goal would be to move towards wanting to be sustainable from the core. And there's several things that personally we are doing here at Shobika to make sure that happens. For example, ETP is one example. So the water that, is getting recycled, you don't let it out into the environment. And we are trying to be carbon neutral. We are trying to, handle the waste in a sustainable manner. I think all of these would come down to being a sustainable organization as a core. And I think, like you said, sustainability is not down to only one aspect of it, which is using recycled materials. I think that's a very, very small portion. There's a lot more, like you said, the 17 sustainable development goals. Ending poverty is also a business responsibility. Reducing gender disparity is also a business responsibility. And, giving equal job opportunities is also a huge part of it. I think all of this is something that businesses do, but often is ignored, or they kind of, for an industry as complex as polyester manufacturing, I think the gender disparity is kind of inevitable, but that is something that we're really, really trying to bridge. So I think that is a very essential part that we need to address. The fact that sustainability is not, using recycled materials. That's it. We are a sustainable company. No, I think it's much more complex than that. Like you had very nicely explained. And honestly, I'm a marketing student myself, and I would say that this is a conflict that goes on in my mind half the time when I'm just walking around and I think, why are we really doing this? Is it a marketing thing or is it actually a sustainable? But I think when you have a good aim, a good goal, good future goal, I think that accounts for about 90% of it.
Like advertising is, often said that, listen, only the rich, the people who have deep pockets can advertise. But how they sort of shroud it, or how they wrap it up nicely. They say that, listen, advertising is about the right to know of an individual, so his right to know. So that's what you're, doing. But yes, absolutely, good marketing is going to propagate this.
True. Yes, sir. And I would love to hear from Shah sir, who has a lot of experience in this field. Shah sir, would you like to add something? Let's see.
I think you need to unmute.
Mute the button, yes.
Sorry. Yeah. So I would like to share my views. So the sustainability has, I think, two dimensions. One is the social dimension, and I think business tycoons are already contributing to social cause of the sustainability. And as a technical person, I would say the most of the solutions will come from core R&D. So we in the industry, we look towards core R&D people for giving us the solutions or technology that we implement and then make the word sustainability more meaningful. Like, for example, in this Shobika Impex plant, the kind of filament yarns we produce, I think one or two companies in the world are doing, and it was a real gamble on the money that whether this kind of yarns production would be possible by recycling or not. So that way, the technological solution has come and it has been made possible. So industry should collaborate. My suggestion is that industry should invest more into R&D to get the solution, like textile to textile recycling. I would say some companies are doing, but it's not 100% textile to textile. Out of the textile, they are selecting few textiles and doing the recycling. So that way we need to, industry and business leaders need to collaborate more with the R&D, particularly in Asian context, Southeast Asia. I would say industries don't invest in R&D. They invest in marketing. They invest in advertising. So very few industries are doing R&D. So my suggestion would be, and I feel that industries should collaborate more in R&D and towards the core research. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. And I think Shah sir is really right in terms of explaining the importance of a progressive leadership and identifying what we call the strategic champions. And the people we have on board here, including Shah sir himself and a few others with a lot of diverse experience in this industry and a very wonderful technical team we have here. I think all of that is what made the manufacturing of the recycled polyester yarn from PET bottles actually possible. In fact, I was just explaining to someone yesterday that it is kind of unbelievable that this has manifested from an idea in a conference room into an actual product. So I think that is one of the most important factors that we need to account for, which is, progressive leadership, collaboration, and kind of understanding the end goal of an organization. That's very, very important. And so coming to the other side of it, I think we would love to hear Ms. Francisca explain about her brand and how they focus on sustainability. Because Rata is a brand that I honestly look up to. They're wonderful, and we have, done my bit of research in cotton manufacturing. So the cotton yarn manufacturing. So I would love to hear from her.
Yes, thank you very much for giving me the word. I hope you can see my screen.
Yes,
that works. Okay, I think I would like to show you a bit what are the challenges of recycling short staple fibers. We will go, and I think it sums very well up with what you have already told with a couple of the challenges. This is the topics we are looking at, and you have mentioned many of them already when we as a company do want to bring our solutions forward with regard to sustainability. Exactly as you have said before, we need to develop our products, we need to invest in our company to make our solutions more sustainable. And when we look to our machineries that we provide to spinners, we see these levers where we have an impact on sustainability, which is if you use less raw material, if you can recycle and close the loop in the textile. I will talk more about that. Of course, a big impact, especially these days, especially for European countries and also other countries, is the topic of energy efficiency, higher productivity, but also having products that are made for a longer use and are durable. And then, of course, what we also see a potential, especially in the textile industry, also when we compare it to other industry, is this whole topic of making it more intelligent, optimizing processes to use less resources. But what I would like to focus on today is exactly this topic of closing the loop, as we have heard in the very first presentation. And I completely agree what all of you have already said. This is a topic where we need to work all of us together at the complete textile value chain. You see it here, not very nicely drawn, but you see we're typically coming here with the virgin material. So for us, that means cotton, viscose, or polyester, typically short staple fibers. It goes to the spinners where we provide the machinery. It goes to downstream confection consumer. And then you have the use where we know, I guess you have also heard this number, that only 1% of all the textiles today are actually going back into this loop. So only 1%, 3/4 land in landfills, only 1% goes back into this loop, into collecting, sorting, tearing, opening, and we will come to that either mechanically or chemically, and then going back into the loop. So we have various challenges along the supply chain, and we really need, and I also like this a lot along this movement, we need to talk globally to each other, and we need to talk along the value chain. And we really have quite a lot of exchange with these topics, also with brands, with the big brands, because it's exactly how do these garments need to look like? Is it, we still have these conceptions as well in the West that, as we heard before, that recycling, it's not a good quality, it's not a nice look. We need to define what are the requirements for the garments, what are the fabric looks, and how can we actually also make this to a standard that is acceptable by the consumers. Big topic as well in the industry is how do we collect all the clothes? How do we sort the clothes? This is also a very big challenge. And then we're coming to the tearing and opening of the fibers. So various challenges along the supply chain. I will focus a bit on what we are doing here, because here we also face challenges where we need to improve our solutions towards. In a very rough clustering, you can bring that also down deeper, but we distinguish between chemical recycling. So this is what we heard before, either from PET bottles or also from clothes. These are processes that are also emerging. Some are emerging if we talk about the textile industry. That bring cotton waste and also blended waste down into their chemical building blocks. So what you get is typically you get from cotton material, you get again a viscose pulp, or you get the PET material back. We have here also companies like Renewcell, Saxel, Infinited Fiber, and there are many. Some are already bigger, others are smaller startups working in these fields. On the other side, we're talking about mechanical recycling. So this is really, you just take, I give this back, it's cut into pieces, and then you have cylinders, 6 to 12 cylinders, opening these fibers. Typically, this process from historical side, this exists already for a long term. Huh? This is existing in the industry, but went so far into housing, car seats, so downstream. So these machineries are actually used to tear things apart. So really to not be very gentle. And this is what we have a challenge today. We have heard about polyester, and you talked about for technical textiles, that's of course very important, the man-made fibers. And we also see that the cotton remains stable. I guess you know these figures very well. These are from Wood Mackenzie. We see cotton remaining stable. We see cellulosic staple fibers with a big growth for various reasons. One reason is that we see when we go into cellulosic that we see also more and more sustainable solutions, for example, lyocell processes. And then, of course, we also see this trend in polyester. And part of it, not all of it, but part of it is, as I said before, this development in recycling. We are tackling all these things. We are buying these fibers and we are testing these fibers to see how spinnable are they on our systems. When we look into cellulosic fibers, we have a joint cooperation with Grasim, Birla, I'm sure you all know them, where we looked into recently how we can spin spun-dyed fibers, so spun-dyed viscose fibers. The fibers are already dyed, not later in the process. That has also an impact on the sustainability process. And we will now do a joint trial at their premises in India, where we are looking at the performance evaluation of their new lyocell fiber, lyocell being a more sustainable produced viscose material, on the performance of this, and in 100%, but also in blends with cotton. So we're looking into this and we see how do we need to improve our system and what is running well. And we're also tackling, we call it the short staple fiber challenge. And here you see that. We see on the left, this is virgin cotton that we typically spin on our machinery. We talk about short fiber content of about a quarter, 25%, and the average fiber length of 21 millimeter. When we now go to these closed loop initiatives where we have pre-consumer material, so in this case yarn waste, so that's still very early from the process, we see short fiber content raising to nearly 50% and the fiber lengths coming down, so fibers get a lot more short. And when we then look where we are today, when we talk about post-consumer, so the t-shirt going back into the loop, we see how the short fiber content raises drastically and the fibers get very short. So for us in our process, it gets a big challenge to still make a yarn that has a reasonable quality. What works well is what I mentioned before and what we have heard in the very first presentation is if you recycle PET bottles or also 100% polyester cloth, you can, of course, design your fibers as you would like to have them and use them more or less normally back in the loop. But of course, also this process has actually some, I personally believe we need both of the processes working together in the future to really have an impact and to really change the world. And so we're looking here into this mechanical recycling topic, of course, as well. You see here a bit, we're collecting many samples, so you see a bit how these things look like. For example, these were trousers and then torn into these fibers. And you also see this is a big challenge in the industry. It's one thing where we need to align with each other. Recycled material is not recycled material. So you see here, these were all post-consumer materials torn apart, and we're looking at the short fiber content. You have seen before why that's important for us. And you see all these blue ones are cotton. And you see this is the range of pre-consumer material. This is the range of virgin cotton, normal cotton. And you see we are clearly above that, but you also see we have quite a range in that. You also see this is a polycotton material. These were pants that were torn apart. But you also see that not all the polycottons are having the same characteristics. If you have a higher short fiber content, and this is also when we heard before, your claim about, yeah, it's a lot of marketing, and it is really a lot of marketing. If you're looking at the brand's websites today, it's 100% sustainable material. They claim a lot on a high share of recycling, but technically today where we are, we know if we have material like this, and this is the reality, you need to blend it with quite a share of virgin material so you can actually get a yarn out of it that is reasonable for after downstream processes. So I like to repeat that because it's important. We have different challenges and we need to work together to address that. Together means globally, and together also needs along the value chain. Having sorting technologies, opening the fibers. Then during spinning, this is where we are working on how to rightly blend this, how to have this the fibers prepared, and then optimizing the spinning technology. And afterwards also having new standards, also defining how do clothes need to be, so it's easier to use them again, easier to bring them back in the loop. When we look at where we are, we're looking at this topic here, where we are at home. Of course, it's not new, yeah. That has existed in the industry. Clothes have been recycled, material has been recycled. Very typically, this has been done with open end, or we also call it rotor system. So you see here an example of our semi-automated rotor spinning machine, the R37, with material that is recycled. And you have clusters, big one, and there is very big spinners and very professional spinners also doing that in India, of course, using that for decades. The rotor open-end spinning process is very well suited to process these short staple fibers that we have seen before. So this process is better able to actually make a yarn out of quite some short staples. And this works already quite well. We're also optimizing certain things to make that even better. But the big challenge is now that we have, and we see that, of course, there's a benefit that we also have requests to go not only on open end and rotor yarn, which is also good for certain applications, but there's an increasing demand in ring yarns. Ring yarns are for a wider application, and they have a higher tenacity than open-end yarn. They have a different, softer touch. You can go into finer yarns. For open-end rotor yarns, you go until any 20 typically. And you can do a core yarn. So this means you have an elastan or an elastic in between of your yarn, and so you get a stretch. But with ring yarn, as you have a different yarn characteristics, this is really now a challenge with these short staple fibers. And what you get is neps. Neps is something you see at the end in the fabric. We're working here together with universities. In this case, you see here a project that was called Tech Circle that we did with a Swiss university, where we had these trousers that we have seen before. 50% of these trousers and 50% Revibra fiber. This is a fiber where it's from lenting, done with 30% of recycled material, and we could get a ring yarn any 20. We also did it, we did a fabric, we also had applications, they wanted first to use it as well for a polo shirt. There they said, no, that's not yet good enough, but for the socks, that already went very well. So they now sell these socks made out quite a high share of recycling in the stores. And we're not only working with universities, of course, we're also working together with spinners. So for example, a customer of us where we work on denim, where they are today at 20% post-consumer material. And we are improving and optimizing the spinning mill, and the target is at the end to get to a higher share, 50% share of recycling materials by optimizing our entire spinning process for the ring spinning system. So summing up, as I said, if we want to change the world, and I think we need to change the world, we should do it intrinsically, but it's also a lot of regulations upcoming, as you have mentioned. The European Union has released a strategy where they want to have this product passport, so they want to have traceability, and they also set on the rules on how much the recycled share should be in clothes. So we will face some guidelines that we need to have answers towards. Thank you very much, and happy to discuss.
Much for sharing your opinion. I think it is very, very valuable in terms of understanding that, sometimes brands have this perception or idea that sustainability is more focused towards the end product. And we often ignore the earlier parts of the value chain, which is machine manufacturers, which is, the other parts of, where the earlier parts of the supply chain, essentially. So I think it's very important that you have shared this. And often recycling is more in line with polyester. They say polyester recycling, PET bottle recycling. This is a new concept, or rather concept that has been ignored for a time, which is cotton recycling. And it was very essential to know this today. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
I'm sure we have a lot of experienced industry leaders online right now. Do anyone want to share their opinion on sustainability, on cotton, polyester recycling?
I have a question.
Sure.
There are some, sometimes people who are not very well versed or are not too much into really understanding the real strength of a recycled product, in actually, shall we say, now I'm talking in business terms, to really push forth sales. They go into, for example, I came across, I'm sorry to say this, that one of our executives, for example, pointed out that this polyester recycled fabric, you say, okay, it's, say 300 rupees a kg, the other one is 400 rupees a kg, and you can probably sell it, market it at a much higher MRP, because it's perceived value, you can, but yet, the surface softness of this particular fabric was, an issue with these guys. Now, I understand that perfectly well, but to a customer who's not really too much into this, sometimes, so is there any way that in the future, some processes are on, or are you thinking about actually making this a little bit more, closer to the, other products with regard to surface, this thing, so that, the softness is there and it's a better product?
Thank you. Thank you for your question. I think this is a very essential point that we need to address in terms of recycled polyester. This is a conversation that we've had several times with our customers itself, where my technical team had to intervene and tell them that there are certain differences that you would face compared to virgin polyester. I wouldn't say in terms of performance we're pretty much close, but in terms of feel, in terms of other factors, price, very importantly. So it's important that we make them understand that this is different. In terms of technological innovations, that would be the right word, technological innovations to making recycled polyester more like virgin or more like what we're trying to achieve. I think there are certain things that we're doing right now. For example, texturizing, I think makes it better. So that is one of the process that we are being able to do. And honestly, being a non-technical person and being on the management side of it, I would say that I honestly encourage innovations that would make recycled polyester more viable, more approachable, or more useful for the end users, and for us to eliminate any of these issues like feel, like property changes. And I think there's a lot more that can be done right now to make it, we often do this where we compare the color. So we have a virgin polyester and we have our recycled polyester. And I have spent hours just looking at it and thinking, why can't our yarn be whiter? Why can't it be more brighter looking? And that would make ours more like brighter looking. Why can't it be like virgin polyester? And yesterday I was able to see a sample of ours with virgin, and I was quite happy because, we've achieved that. And I think a lot of it comes down to encouraging the technical team to make those innovations. And again, comes down to machine manufacturers for enabling us to do that. I think that's a very essential part of it. And I'm very thankful for companies like Rayter who are taking these initiatives. So from the technical side of it, I think a lot of it comes down to machine manufacturers and management for willing to take those decisions. But I would say it's very essential and a huge gap in the industry. Property-wise, yes, we have made a lot of progress, but in the field-wise, in other aspects, I think we have a long way to go.
Thanks very much for addressing that. This was actually close to my heart and my business that we are in. So, anyone else wants to say?
So anybody else has any questions or anything to address? We have a lot of industry experts, I'm sure. Would anybody like to add anything?
Okay, may I share in the meantime a few things that I have?
Sure, of course, yes, sir, please.
When we talk about the brands, really the language that they speak, while addressing sustainability. So what do they really, talk about? How do they disseminate this information or the fact that they are into sustainable things? What are, those things that so I have a list of things here. For example, they would say that, okay, we have got certified organic cotton. Then eco-friendly packaging. We use that recycle logo, and then recyclable textiles, like say is how they will, this is their sort of language, how they communicate to their people, that to their consumers, that this is that we are into sustainable production. Then ethical production, like we spoke, that it's extremely important that there are practices that wages are paid well and so on and so forth, and all social laws, local laws, and ethics comes first. And like you had said earlier, that you need to look at the larger goal, put your company, your client, be consumers, customer centric. They come first, and your selfish interests should not come first. And zero waste or near zero waste, while they are producing so this is where Lean Six Sigma sort of practices also come in. Then fair trade certified factories, they say, okay, our factories that we are dealing with are fair trade. So the consumer says, okay, good, man, you're doing well in this area, you score well. And of course practices also. Then solar powered, they would say, even if they are partially solar powered, they can say and tout themselves as following or trying to be, it is, nobody can at the moment, probably a lot of companies are in fact probably already 100% sustainable, but it is important for us to say, or even if we actually, delineate that this is our path, this is our goal, this is our vision. Not right now, we are not there, but few years, from hence. For example, in our brand, we have this. We formulated this strategy that okay, 15% of our production will be sustainable in 6 months' time. It's very tough in the market segment that we are in. To be one. It is also extremely important. Let me just underscore this point, to get sustainable fabrics. We are having quite an issue in really sourcing sustainable fabrics. This is a issue which is being faced by the brands and manufacturers in India, especially, because we are not, a foreign brand would say that you need to be end-to-end sustainable. So, all right. So there are people who are, God certified and so on and so forth. And they will be, so that entire line is there, that chain. But we, even if you want to be partially, take small steps, very difficult to source these fabrics. It's you need to quantities are going to be, minimums are going to be issue. Then it will take a long time for the production to come, because in India that's the way it is. Not even a single meter is being produced by these guys to sell it off the shelf. They produce these fabrics against set orders. And if I want now, say, okay, listen, I want to give it a shot, how my sustainable garments going to sell, so give me 200 meters of, organic cotton, I will not be able to get it. Or if I get it, I'll get a spurious, this thing. It'll be, maybe, either the dyes used will be, they will give me the cotton, which will be sort of organically produced, but then it'll be dyed inorganically. So really, we are not being true to ourselves, or being honest with our. So this is a very endemic, and hopefully it'll get sorted out sometime. But I myself am, I claim to be a bit of a sourcing expert. I face a big issue in really, laying my hands on these, fabrics. And now my other computer has got conked off, because the light went off. So some of the other points I would be able to share. But I remember that, one is this, that second-hand clothing. Okay, that we deal in second-hand clothing, that we, dole out second-hand, clothing. So that also, we lay our claim to being sustainable, right? And then also, there is this brand abroad called 10 Trees. So they plant trees, in lieu of whatever they sell or things like that, or there are people who plow back into the industry, some funds to help the, the CSR needs. So all of that is also, sustainable activities. But the future, I'm sure, promises augurs very well. The world is much more, is getting, day by day, more aware. And these seminars of ours also, I'm sure, are going to, help. But there is, of course, still a lot of mileage to be, still a long way that we need to go. But I'm sure someday we'll get there.
I think that's very, very true, because when we are talking about certifications, or when you're talking about, accreditations to certify that a particular company or a particular process is sustainable, I think it's not 100% true, or there are certain gaps along the way that we need to address. But I think looking at it from a marketing perspective, looking at it from a brand perspective, they're trying to take what we are able to give, or what is there. So I think anything will do at the moment is kind of the mindset that some brands have. So say, for example, Ocean Bound certificate or GRS, or the several other certificates that accredits that a company is sustainable. I think they're taking whatever we are able to give. And there are several brands that kind of check it themselves. Like we are actually working very closely with Decathlon, and they have a very elaborate process of ensuring that we're actually sustainable. Several audits and assessments, and working together with us to, kind of perfect it. So that is one thing that brands are being able to do now. But obviously, I think there's a large gap in the industry in terms of kind of terming what is actually sustainable, and certifications and accreditations. It's a complicated kind of, situation. But when it comes down to brands, I think they're happy with what they can get. And to a certain extent, yeah, I think that is what we're all aiming to do. take whatever is being given, but I think it needs to be perfected. It needs to be sorted out, and that is a gap that needs to be addressed. And like you said, hopefully our seminar and several seminars like this would be a starting point for those kinds of gaps to be addressed. And I think the fact that as manufacturers, we realize that this is an issue is itself a good starting point. So we can try on our end, in our business and your business, to try and close this gap. I think that would make a huge difference.
Naveen Goel wants to address something. So, sir, can you please? Naveen, sir? I guess there is some technical issue. He raised his hand to discuss on the same topic. Naveen, sir? Maybe he's not there right now. So you can continue. Sorry.
Okay, anybody else would like to add anything about sustainability? About, I think we discussed several complex factors from textile to textile recycling and many other points today. Anybody would like to add anything?
May I ask?
I would like
Sorry, please go on.
No, I was just telling that, we've been talking on the surface. If anybody would love to dive deep into the technical aspects, that would be great. A new perspective.
I have a question, Shobhika ji. Can I?
Of course, please, sir, go ahead.
Okay, my name is Naveen Goel. See, already, as far as I know, already most of the PET bottles are being recycled. And lots and lots of expansions are coming up in recycling. I'm talking about mainly recycling of polyester bottles and from the business perspective, not from environment perspective. So how will all these units be able to source the material and whether they will survive? And one more question was, day by day, the waste collection is improving. So while we all are investing so huge, including your company, to put sophisticated lines, the way the collection is improving, we may not really need to invest that much in future going ahead. If we also start collecting like other places in Asia. So my thing is it a good business going ahead? Or it is going to be saturated very soon, because PET bottle industry is growing hardly at say 7-8% per annum only.
Right. I think you have a very valid point, sir. And this is something that honestly I have discussed with several people myself, whether the fact that with government regulations, government restrictions on use of PET bottles, I think that is again the ban of single-use plastics, and all of these things coming into picture, how viable would our collection be, or how would our access to kind of PET bottles is our raw material. So what would, the access to our raw material be in the future? And, I think it was my father who kind of addressed this for me. He said, as the restrictions on single-use plastics is also increasing, so is health awareness. There are people who before used to, in villages when they're traveling by bus, used to drink water from taps and everything. And now I think health awareness is increasing and people have more, that education and kind of, you can see plastic bottles being sold everywhere. In every shops, when you're going in the bus and you see there's plastic bottles being sold. With that increase in health awareness, I think what is going to change is, like you said, the collection or the proper disposal of PET bottles rather than PET bottles not being used. I think that is a change that we can expect in the future. Rather than decrease in the use of bottles, I think it would be proper disposal of bottles. And that kind of, like you said, makes our job easier actually. We wouldn't need such an elaborate PET bottle sorting, collection, and distribution of PET bottles. That wouldn't need to be that complex. I think it would definitely change in the coming years. Right now, actually, we have our own collection centers, Shobhika, we have our own collection centers across 5 or 6 cities where small collectors and independent collectors would hand over the bottles to our collection center, and they kind of like send it to Karur for us to sort it out. And I think that kind of process would become more easier. We would have more access to drinking water bottles, clean water bottles, and that obviously ensures a better end product, and that is beneficial for us. So in my perspective, I think what is going to change is going to be the collection and disposal of bottles rather than the unavailability of them. I hope that that kind of answers your question.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's a very valid question, honestly. I'm happy you addressed this.
Actually, it seems that people who are making low cost, like you are making a value added product, but very few like Polygenta, you or going ahead bottle to bottle, people will be getting some premium, but most of the product is going to recycled fiber. So looking to the current dynamics, it seems that in say next 1 year or so, the fiber units may become unviable unless they start getting a premium. If they have to sell below the virgin fiber, it may not be possible because PET bottle, okay, tomorrow something good may happen, but currently it is growing at a rate of say hardly 7-8% per annum only.
True. Yes, sir. I think filament and fiber industry in polyester, they are going to have, I think this is just a starting point for this industry. Like you said, there are very few players in this field. So one is Shobika, and then there's Polygenta, and then there are quite a few fiber manufacturers. And the industry, I wouldn't say is uncertain, but kind of the growth is unprecedented at the moment. Like we don't know how it is going to progress and how the availability of our raw material is going to be. And there's a lot of government, I think right now there was some kind of changes in the restriction of importing PET bottles. And I think that allowed us to import PET bottles from US and other countries. So I think that makes it more, your access to raw materials kind of increases there. So all of these factors has to be taken in. We don't know how the future will change in terms of government restrictions. So it is a little bit uncertain. It is a little bit, we don't know how it is going to progress. But I honestly think it is an industry with unstoppable capabilities, being able to make garments from bottles. I remember this idea first came up in our boardroom, probably in 2016. It was Mr. Shah, who's joined us today, my dad, and Dr. Sen from Clarion Chemicals, and Mr. Biswas, who is again an expert in the polyester industry, and a few others. And they were just discussing. And I remember my father telling me, we have this idea. And I said, how would that even work? And he said, a few people are doing it. Let us try. It's not a small investment. We should be able to take that risk. And today being able to kind of see it come to life is a kind of unbelievable. So I would like to see how this progresses in the future. I think that is a very important, that's a very important part.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Can you explain us some technical aspects of how the process goes on?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Could you just repeat your question?
I'm asking, can you explain us in brief the technical process that goes into manufacturing, the conversion of,
bottles to garments. Okay. So I think Shasa would be the more appropriate person, but maybe I would give just a very small brief about it. He's the expert, so I would just give maybe a small brief about it. So what we do, like I explained, is we have our own collection centers across various cities. One of them is Chennai, because we want to focus on collecting ocean waste. So ocean-bound plastic, basically. So we have collection centers across a few cities. And when it comes to Karur, where our plant is located, we sort the water bottles. There's a large step of manual sorting, automatic sorting, and then there is washing, crushing, and finally you arrive at what we call flakes, just polyester flakes. And then that gets, homogenized to maintain the same IV, because you use bottles that had come from various purposes. You get water bottles, you get soft drink bottles, and sometimes even bottles with alcoholic drinks in it. And all of this affects the properties of the bottles, and to kind of homogenize them is a very important aspect.
IV stands for?
Sorry?
IV stands for?
IV is actually, I think Shasar is more apt to answer that.
Viscosity, Mansab.
Okay. So we homogenize and arrive at a standard IV. And then there is the spinning process, extrusion, and then there's a spinning process where we have 3 end products. One is partially oriented yarn, which I think there is a very few end use for POY. Partially oriented yarn is called POY. So very few end use for that. So POY is usually texturized to make DTY, which is drawn textured yarn, which is used for garments, for home textiles, for shoes, and that can even be twisted to make sewing thread. It's a lot of end products. And FDY is mostly used for, you might know that Shobika is also a manufacturer of L-Lion, which is long-lasting mosquito nets. So FDY is used for mosquito nets and weaving process, a lot of them. I think Shasa can explain more in detail about the technical aspects of it.
Any particular question on that?
Sir, who is the manufacturer? Sorry, really, we are like, absolute lame people here. But who's the manufacturer of the machines? Who are the suppliers of the machinery, sir?
See, if you see this POY and FDY spinning, there are only handful of suppliers, which everybody knows. So like that, we are also going to the same suppliers anywhere in the polyester industry across the India and across Asia, or you may say across the world. There are 4 or 5 suppliers, so you can easily find them. So
I don't want to set up a plant.
Okay. No, I'm just telling you, there are only 4 or 5, means reputed one. Means like small suppliers can be there, but there are 4 or 5 reputed suppliers like Barmek, Chongli, TMT. So all these, some Italian companies are there. So like that. So, and for staple also, there are only few suppliers. So it's very limited choice on that.
And do you face any threat from large business houses entering into your field?
No, sir.
Comes into it tomorrow.
Large business houses are mainly into virgin polyester, and even they can do recycling. There's nothing wrong in that. Means not a business threat to us, because we are integrated up to the fabric. Yeah, so we are finally pushing the final product into the market. So we are not an intermediate producer. So that is the thing.
Thank you very much, sir.
Welcome.
So in terms of like business threat is again something that needs to be considered. But like Shasar said, I think major players, including Reliance themselves, are into virgin polyester. And of course, that is something that we need to take into consideration. But this is not an easy plan to set up or an easy, quality to achieve. This has been done with the collaboration and joint effort of several people. We have a few of them here today. Actually, our quality head is joining us. Mr. Sandeep is here. Our marketing person is also live right now. So it is the collaboration of several people and Shasar, of course, and all of them. I think there's joint effort, and this has been achieved. Generally, it would take, I've heard 7-8 years, and we've been managed to do it under 1 year. So it's a joint effort. And even if a company does come up, yes, there will be competition. I think that's the nature of the industry. But it's about how you innovate and stay ahead. You should be able to innovate in terms of machinery. You should be innovative in terms of how sustainable you are, your progression into the end product. Like he mentioned, we are also making garments right now, and we have set up a polar fleece manufacturing unit. Polar fleece can directly be made from recycled polyester. So being able to offer end products within one facility, a carbon neutral product with good compliance, I think all of that accounts for a greater, value for your organization.
Kudos to you, and all the best for your future endeavors.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I hope we have answered. I'm honestly pretty non-technical myself, so I'm just learning. I'm more on the marketing end of it. Thank you.
I have one question. Sorry. Like when you are recycling polyester, there would be chances of any bacteria and microbes would be there in the PET bottles and everything. So before recycling, you are treating them with something, like, because end product is a garment or swimming thread, it's coming in the direct contact with us. So is it a protocol is also there?
Right. So I think you mean like the bacteria that would be present in the water bottles, because most of the water bottles that we get would usually be thrown into the ground and then we pick them up and then recycle them. So before the bottle gets converted to flakes, there's a very rigorous process of washing, rewashing, hot, cold wash, and it goes through several stages, and it's getting treated with a few, I wouldn't say chemicals as such, but few things like caustic sodas are being added and detergents are added, and a lot of other process to make sure that the chips and flakes are as clean as they can be. And even through the spinning process, it is a very high temperature. So this is one thing that I've heard from several people who talk to me. They say your plant is high temperature, high pressure. It needs to be handled with care. So it's high temperature. I think that naturally is kind of kills all the bacteria, right? So I think that is one thing. And even before it reaches the garment stage, there are several stages of washing that happens, such as, during dyeing, it happens a lot. During knitting also, there's temperature. I think all of this kind of eliminates the bacteria. Honestly, this is something that I haven't thought about myself. So I'm glad you brought it up. And as I'm talking, I'm thinking, what else do we do to eliminate the bacteria?
It's just I was curious about it, the discussion. So I just asked okay, it's a recycled one. So did we do that part or didn't do that part?
True. I think that is also one thing that kind of creates the stigma in our society that recycled is not as clean or as good or as superior as virgin products. So honestly, as I'm speaking, I'm thinking what else can be done to eliminate the bacteria.
No, I just asked as in curiosity because discussion was going on so well. So it was one curious question I was.
That's very, very important question. I honestly haven't thought about it myself, and I'm pretty sure I'm missing out a few critical things here and there technically. But I think on the base, I think this is it. We do a lot of rigorous washing in the flake stage itself. Thank you so much for your question. So anybody has any questions that you would like me or our technical team to answer? No, so then can we wind up for the day? Thank you so much for being here, everyone. And it was very glad to hear all of your questions. A few of those that really made me think and just consider how we are manufacturing a product and how other people in the supply chain actually perceive it. And that is a very essential part for us to consider that will allow us to innovate and be better manufacturers, I hope. So thank you so much for giving me the platform. I'm sure there's a lot of industry experts here with us today. Giving me the platform to share this is really an honor. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So anyone else who want to conclude the session, this panel discussion actually?
Thank you very much also from my side, and wishing you a good continuation of the conference.
Thank you, Francisca.
Thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to be here. Thank you, TAI. Thank you, Ishan.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Sasa.
Thank you. Thank you.
So it was a very nice discussion on the sustainability. We got very new ideas for the sustainability. So I thank you all the panelists for their active participation in the panel discussion, and our chair, Shobhika Siroswamy, for holding this session so well and give it a very nice direction for the sustainability and the new approach, which is going to come soon. So thank you all, and thank you all the participants for actively participating in this part of the panel discussion. So we will be having our next session after post lunch, that would be on 2, which is our plenary session. So I hope all of you to enjoy your lunch, and then we'll be available and join for our plenary lectures. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Regarding import substitutions that the textile fraternity can take up in your knowledge?
No, I somehow feel I don't know how much money that you would like to put in, and perhaps for me, when I, in the last few days that I tried to inform myself on this subject, as Dr. Shushanto right away said in the beginning, that we didn't even know that so much of textile existed in our lives. So when I started reading about it, I suddenly realized that the area that we should concentrate upon now is all. We want to take a lead because we want to be a nation in the lead now, and that is tissue engineering. There is absolutely, and that's going to, because like just now we were talking about tendons and all. I also dream many times because I have taken out so many bladders for cancer in my life. I also dreamt that probably we can have an artificial bladder, which is now a reality. It is already there, and it's being already clinically tried. So there's no reason for us to lose a lead in what is both a business opportunity and highly compassionate to the patients.
Okay.
It's highly compassionate to the patients. If you are able, like Dr. Bandari, I'm sure would love to have skin available to him, I'm sure. And similarly, many of us, now I have extracorporeal devices, like artificial kidney has recently been licensed to FDA. And so these are, and we are going to have a very high load of chronic kidney disease patients. We should not lose our lead and in these areas. And I hope the industry, I know it's very expensive, but then I'm sure industry knows how to get together and fund an exercise like that. So to my mind, this is the area where you should put all your energies to.
Dr. Kaza, I think the expense is something which comes later at the point of time. And if you really look at it, technologies as they improve will always bring down costs. The classic example is that of the mobile phones.
Right.
There was a time when just a minute of talking to somebody was as high as 40 rupees or 50 rupees. And now the call costs have come down, the instrument costs have come down. So similarly, if we have thought about it and we are doing it, what we need are pointers. So you have to tell us what directions we should take. And once we start looking at it, okay, in due course of time, we'll probably be able to bring down the costs and make it more viable for the common man. And that is our target. So I think that cost always comes secondary. It is always the thought which is primary.
May I just quickly say something? I mean, I was listening to what Dr. Kaza was saying. Making the doctors aware is probably going to generate interest, and that is going to make us make more demand for the products which are already existing and therefore to use. I would only differ about informing the patients simultaneously about it, because before you have it, the patients will be demanding it. The kahat hoti na ki shahar basne se pehle chor aa gaye. That's something. But I really latched on to one word that you said, sir, and that was a compassionate industry. Now, this almost sounds like an oxymoron.
Yeah.
I beg your pardon, but but the point here is compassion is a very nice word to say. It's a very nice word to hear. It's very nice if somebody else does it. And this is something seriously lacking. And very honestly, sir, I think you hit the nail on the head. If there is compassion for the patient, not just for the product, compassion for the patient will push everything ahead for the industry and for us.
That's true.
Right.
For all the four doctors, your final comments regarding the direction that the textile industry, the medical textile fraternity should take through the medical fraternity. Any import substitutions we've already spoken about. Anything specific?
I think to my mind, carry on this regular interaction. I think this is one of the most important things, because you get to know what are our problems, otherwise you won't get to know them. And second, pay more attention to the smaller detail. I think that will help the patient And at the end of the day, both your goal and my goal is the patient. So I think the smaller detail, we talked little about the dressings today, but there's a lot required in that area. We talked a little about the hygiene products, a lot required in that area.
Yeah.
And I think, and they're not expensive to develop. So that's where I'd go.
Dr. Bhandari?
I think it was a nice beginning, and it was more of a generalized discussion today,
Yes.
but I believe it needs to be more focused areas so that we can actually focus on the area which need to be developed.
Dr. Bhandari, we had already realized that because we have been, up till now, we have been talking different languages. So we have to come down to the common ground where we understand each other. We understand your requirements, you understand our capabilities or lack of it, or whatever. So as it is, even before we finalized this, it was already on my mind, and I've spoken to Dr. Bhuvnesh about it. I said we must have a separate meeting, and then we'll have a separate conference, because there has been so much work which has been done on medical textiles worldwide. That is really amazing. And until and unless the end users, which is you know what is being developed into the market, you will not use it. I mean, until and unless there's a product which I know is available, I will not look for it. And if I do not look for it, I will not use it. So with that particular thing in mind, this was started. And you're absolutely right. We need to take it on a much larger scale. This was just a 1.5 hour session, is not going to bring about too much. But yes, it is a start.
Very important start.
Right.
Yeah.
Dr. Neogi, any comments from you?
I want to say that we are still fascinated with the imported items, because probably everybody, I mean, across the board, you say, but if I'm convinced, or the medical fraternity is convinced about the quality and I mean, what is available in the Indian market, if you're able to convince everybody by the performance, then that's a plus for everybody.
Thank you so much. I think just deviating a little from the protocol, may I request Dr. Bhuvnesh to give the concluding remarks?
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Mishra. It's really fascinating to see that so many medical people are there to participate in this discussion, because it's not a normal thing happening, because always there is a boundary between engineers and doctors. Engineers try to make something, doctors try to use something. So but what has to be made and how it has to be made, this is important. And this can come only when two people are talking together. So this interaction which we have today is really great. The only thing which we need to have is from the industry side, because we have to bring the industry together. Because without industry, nothing can be done. There is a funding agency, DBT can fund you, ICMR can fund you, DST can fund you. But then at the end, you get the product, but who will manufacture it? So the interest of industry is very, very important if any revolution in medical products has to be taken out in our country. And somehow, I tell you frankly, my experience of the last 25 years is that somehow we are not able to encourage or enthuse the industry to come together. So probably, with these discussions, next time whenever we have discussion, probably we'll bring in industry also. And this might encourage them also. And then probably we will come out with many more things. So I'm sure that future is bright, medical textile future is bright. And this very specific domain of medical textile, people have created now these days a new domain, which is biotextile. So things are happening like that. Within medical textile, biotextile, I don't know, maybe after 10 years, you will find another area within biotextile. So this shows that the world of medical textile is increasing like anything. And in this world, we have to find out ways how to take care of these different products for different applications. And I'm sure we will do this job. So thank you so much from my side. And we look forward for many more such interactions in the future.
Thank you.
Dr. Bhuvnesh, just addressing your point regarding bringing in the university, bringing in the industry. There's only one drawback. We are talking technology, but the industry talks money. So we have to, that is the language that we have to bring in. We have to talk numbers. We have to talk about ROIs. We have to talk money. And that is what we'll have to integrate in all our discussions if we are to bring in the industry and really ignite their interest.
Yes.
So,
sure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Dr.
very
Kaza.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you,
Pandey.
everyone. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nayogi. Thank you, Anil. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Last, I would like to thank all the panel speakers, Dr. Bhandari, Dr. Mishra sir, Dr. Nyogi sir, Kamal Mishra sir, Professor Bhuvnesh Gupta sir, for bringing us new innovative pathways to come together. And we'll meet after now the post-lunch for the next panel session.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What time we'll meet?
2 o'clock.
That's two.
The next session is the plenary session of the conference.
For the doctors, I think we have, Dr. Chetna, do we have some more sessions on biotextiles?
Sir, yeah. After the plenary session, we have the session bio and medical textiles.
So for the doctors, I think if there's any interest, you can probably join us. You already have the link. Thank you so much.
Sorry, say it again, sir. So for biomedical, at what time it is?
Sir, this is from 4:30.
4:30. And any other session going on in parallel now?
No, sir. After lunch, this is the plenary session.
4 o'clock.
It's 2, the plenary session.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay, thank you, Doctor.
Good evening, everyone. How are you? Hello. Hello.